Welcome, brave souls, to another journey into the shadowed corners of history. Tonight, we leave the beaches and swamps behind and step into sacred spaces where faith and fear collide. Florida is famous for its sunshine, beaches, and palm trees. But it's also home to churches that hide dark secrets, where bells toll without wind. Footsteps echo in empty halls, and the spirits of the past refuse to rest. Whether you're a believer in the supernatural or a lover of chilling history, brace yourself. The pews are empty, the candles flicker, and the shadows stretch long across the worn floors. These are the 25 haunted churches in Florida where bells ring by themselves. St. John's Catholic Church in Winter Park, Florida, is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine, creating an atmosphere that is both sacred and mysterious. Established over a century ago, the church has served generations of parishioners, hosting baptisms, weddings, funerals, and daily worship. Yet beneath its serene exterior, St. John's holds stories that suggest the presence of lingering spirits. Bells ring at random, lights flicker unexpectedly, and shadowy figures appear near the altar. Some visitors report hearing whispered prayers in the dead of night, as if the church itself recalls the devotion of those who have passed. Walking through St. John's, the first thing many notice is the palpable sense of quiet reverence. The scent of incense and old wood fills the air, and sunlight streams through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across the pews. But amidst this beauty, a subtle tension lingers. Many who enter describe the sensation of being watched, a feeling that unseen eyes follow their movements. Footsteps echo across the stone floors when no one is near, and faint whispers sometimes drift through the nave, soft enough to make one question whether they are imagining them, more hearing the prayers of the departed. The church's bells are among the most frequently reported sources of paranormal activity. They have been known to ring without warning, often at night, when the building is empty and locked. The sound carries through the surrounding streets, startling residents and adding to the church's haunted reputation. Some witnesses describe the tolling as rhythmic, almost deliberate, while others say it is erratic and unsettling. Paranormal researchers suggest that the bell tolls may be tied to the energy of past parishioners or clergy, perhaps echoing moments of worship, grief, or ritual that occurred decades ago. Shadowy figures are another commonly reported phenomenon at St. John's. Visitors describe dark, indistinct shapes moving near the altar or along the aisles, sometimes kneeling or standing silently. These apparitions are often dressed in clothing reminiscent of early 20th century clergy or parishioners, and their movements are deliberate but slow, almost as if they are replaying rituals from the past. When approached, the figures vanish, leaving only the chill of an unseen presence. Some believe these spirits are those who remain devoted to the church even after death, bound by their faith and the sacred space they once worshipped in. Lights flickering without cause is another hallmark of the church's spectral activity. Candles or chandeliers may suddenly flare or dim, even in the absence of drafts or electrical malfunctions. These unexplained changes often occur during quiet moments of reflection or prayer, adding to the sense that the building itself responds to spiritual energy. Paranormal investigators have documented such occurrences, noting that no mechanical or environmental explanation can account for them, reinforcing the idea that the church is a conduit for lingering spirits. Auditory experiences are common as well. Whispered prayers, soft chants, and the faint echo of hymns have been reported, often emanating from areas where no one is present. Some witnesses hear footsteps pacing along the pews, or the rustle of robes moving silently through the aisles. Electronic voice phenomena, AVP, have been recorded by paranormal enthusiasts, capturing voices that seem to speak phrases or prayers, though often too faint to clearly understand. These sounds contribute to the haunting atmosphere, blending devotion with the unexplained. Physical sensations also accompany many of the church's paranormal reports. Visitors occasionally feel a light touch on their shoulder, a brush of air against their face, or a sudden drop in temperature in localized areas. These experiences often occur near the altar, the the pews, or around the shadows that are seen moving through the church. Many interpret these moments as signs of the lingering presence of parishioners who remain tied to St. John's by faith, their devotion echoing through time. The history of St. John's provides insight into why the church may be so heavily imbued with spiritual energy. Over the decades, it has witnessed countless ceremonies, moments of joy and grief, and the lives of those who called it home for worship. Early parishioners and clergy are believed to have formed strong emotional and spiritual bonds with the space, and many were laid to rest nearby. Paranormal experts suggest that the accumulation of such intense devotion and emotion over a long period may contribute to the persistent supernatural activity, creating residual energy that manifests in visual, auditory, and physical ways. Caretakers, parishioners, and casual visitors alike have shared personal accounts. Some recall seeing shadows lingering near the altar or along the side aisles, feeling cold gusts that appear inexplicable, or witnessing lights flicker for no reason. Others have experienced the faint sound of prayers or hymns when the church is empty, or the sudden tolling of bells that reverberates through the night. These occurrences are reported consistently, lending credibility to the idea that St. John's is more than a historical building. It's a place where the past continues to make itself known. Visitors leave St. John's Catholic Church with a mixture of awe, reverence, and a subtle unease. The flicker of candlelight, the echo of footsteps, the random tolling of bells, and the presence of shadowy figures all combine to create an atmosphere that is both haunting and sacred. The church feels alive, not just as a structure, but as a space where the devotion of the past continues to resonate, where whispers of prayer are carried on unseen currents, and where the faithful who came before remain ever present. St. Mary's Church in Jacksonville, Florida, is a historic sanctuary that carries a reputation far beyond its architectural beauty. While its stained glass windows and elegant arches draw the eyes of visitors during the day, it is the stories of the unexplained that linger in whispers after dark. For centuries, parishioners and staff have reported strange occurrences that defy logical explanation, earning St. Mary's a place among Florida's most haunted churches. Late at night, the church bell tolls seemingly on its own. Shadowy figures kneel silently in the pews, and cold drafts sweep through the aisles for no apparent reason. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that these manifestations are the restless souls of congregants who died tragically, bound to the church by devotion and unresolved emotion. The sensation of entering St. Mary's after hours is often described as both awe-inspiring and unsettling. The polished wooden pews, worn from centuries of use, and the echoing stone floors create a sense of reverence. Yet there is an undeniable weight in the air, a stillness that feels almost sentient. Many visitors report feeling watched, as if unseen eyes follow their every movement. Footsteps echo unnaturally, doors creak without wind, and candles flicker as though disturbed by an invisible hand. The historic architecture amplifies these experiences, turning ordinary sounds into something uncanny and transforming shadows into figures that seem to move with intent. Among the most frequently reported phenomena is the mysterious tolling of the church bell. Locals and staff alike have recounted hearing the bell chime during the dead of night when no one is in the bell tower. The sound resonates across the neighborhood, echoing off the surrounding buildings in a haunting pattern that seems deliberate. Some believe the tolling serves as a warning or a message from the past, a reminder that the spirits of former congregants linger within the church's walls. Others suggest the bell tolls in response to specific emotional energies, calling attention to moments of grief or unrest tied to centuries of tragedy and devotion. Shadowy figures are a recurring sight within St. Mary's. Witnesses describe silhouettes, kneeling in prayer near the altar or standing silently in the aisles. These figures are often semi-transparent, their outlines flickering as though caught between the physical world and another plane of existence. Some appear to be dressed in clothing from earlier centuries, suggesting they are echoes of parishioners long deceased. The figures move slowly and deliberately, mimicking familiar gestures of worship such as bowing, crossing themselves, or kneeling in reverence. Yet when approached, they vanish without a trace, leaving behind only the lingering sensation of presence. Cold drafts often accompany these spectral appearances. Visitors walking through the church on warm nights report sudden drops in temperature that seem to come from nowhere. These cold spots are not isolated. They appear in various locations throughout the church, often following the path of witnesses. The chills are sometimes accompanied by the faint scent of incense, even when none has been burned, and the subtle movement of candles flickering without wind. Paranormal investigators suggest that these phenomena may be caused by residual emotional imprints left by the intense devotion, grief, and sorrow of past congregants. Whispering voices add another layer to the church's haunted reputation. Late at night, visitors have reported hearing soft murmurs drifting through empty aisles, faint prayers, or fragments of conversation that vanish when one attempts to focus. Some report hearing their own names called, or the quiet repetition of familiar phrases from centuries-old rituals. Paranormal researchers have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP recordings, that include faint, unintelligible whispers, further lending credibility to the reports of haunting. These auditory experiences often occur alongside visual manifestations, creating a multisensory impression of spirits actively inhabiting the space. Objects in the church have also been observed moving without explanation. Candles have been known to extinguish or flicker spontaneously, doors swing open or closed, and small items on altars or shelves shift position. Staff members recount moments when they noticed objects slightly displaced, only to find them return to their original location later, or shifted again. These incidents, though subtle, reinforce the perception that the spirits of St. Mary's are active participants in the church's environment, interacting with the living in ways that are both eerie and undeniable. The church's history provides context for the haunting. Built in the 19th century, St. Mary's has been a center for community, faith, and devotion. It has also been a witness to personal and communal tragedies, illnesses, sudden deaths, and other misfortunes that affected its congregation deeply. Historians suggest that the intensity of these events may have left emotional imprints on the building, which manifest as ghostly phenomena centuries later. Many believe that the lingering spirits are not malevolent, but rather devoted souls whose attachments to the church persist beyond death. Staff and caretakers frequently report experiences that defy conventional explanation. Some feel an unseen presence following them through empty hallways, while others describe the sensation of a touch or a brush along their arm when no one else is present. Even skeptics admit that the church has a distinctive atmosphere, one that carries both reverence and an unsettling energy. Visitors often describe a mixture of awe and fear, captivated by the interplay of architectural beauty, history, and supernatural activity. Despite or perhaps because of these experiences, St. Mary's Church continues to draw both worshippers and paranormal enthusiasts. Some seek the spiritual solace the church provides, while others are drawn by curiosity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the unexplained. Many leave with stories of cold drafts, ghostly shadows, and bells that toll in the dead of night. Some are skeptical, attributing the phenomena to environmental factors or the power of suggestion. But the consistency of these reports over generations cannot be ignored. Old St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Jacksonville, Florida, is more than just a historic building. It is a place where the past seems to linger in ways that defy explanation. The church, with its towering steeple, stained glass windows, and weathered wooden pews, has been a cornerstone of the community for over a century. Yet beneath its serene exterior, Old St. Paul's carries a reputation for the unexplained. Parishioners, staff, and visitors have reported a range of paranormal phenomena, from bells ringing when no one is near to sudden cold spots in the middle of the nave. Some claim to have seen ghostly clergy walking the aisles, silently performing services that no living person can hear, leaving a palpable sense of awe and ease among those who witness them. The atmosphere inside Old St. Paul's is immediately distinct. Even during daylight hours, the church has a weight to it, a quiet stillness that feels almost alive. The combination of its age, architectural design, and long history of worship contributes to an ambience that is both reverent and unnerving. Long, narrow aisles amplify every sound, turning small creaks in the floorboards into echoes that stretch through the sanctuary. Candles flicker without explanation, and shadows seem to move in ways that suggest more than just shifting light. Visitors often feel a presence, as if the walls themselves are aware of those who enter, silently observing every gesture. One of the most persistent and mysterious phenomena at Old St. Paul's is the ringing of the church bell. Staff and locals alike have reported hearing the bell toll in the dead of night, despite no one being present in the bell tower. The sound is often deep and resonant, carrying across the neighborhood and startling anyone awake at the hour. Some witnesses describe the bell as tolling in a rhythm that seems almost intentional, as though marking a time or event from the past. Paranormal investigators suggest that the bell may serve as a focal point for residual energy, a manifestation of the intense devotion and emotion that have filled the church over its long history. Cold spots are another commonly reported occurrence within the church. Visitors walking down the nave often experience sudden drops in temperature, sometimes accompanied by the sensation of a subtle brush or presence passing by. These chills are not confined to specific areas but appear unpredictably, creating a feeling of vulnerability even in the bright light of day. Some believe that these cold drafts are the echoes of past worshippers, a physical imprint of centuries of prayer, devotion, and, in some cases, tragedy. Others suggest that they are the lingering spirits of clergy and congregants who remain tied to the church through their devotion and unfinished earthly business. Perhaps the most striking reports involve the appearance of ghostly clergy. Witnesses describe figures dressed in traditional vestments, walking slowly down the aisles or standing at the altar as though performing a service. These apparitions are often silent, with no audible movement, yet their presence is unmistakable. Some have been seen kneeling in prayer, lifting imaginary chalices, or conducting rituals that only they can perceive. When approached, the figures vanish, leaving only an eerie sense of completion, as though the unseen service has concluded for those who cannot witness it. These experiences often leave observers with a mixture of reverence and fear, a recognition that they are in the presence of something beyond the ordinary. Unexplained sounds are a frequent part of the church's hauntings. The soft creak of pews, the faint shuffle of shoes on wooden floors, and distant murmurs echoing through the empty sanctuary all contribute to the sense that Old St. Paul's is alive with invisible activity. Some visitors report hearing fragments of prayer, hymns, or sermons, despite there being no congregation present. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, on site. Recordings of faint whispers or indistinct phrases that appear to emanate from the unseen, further supporting claims of supernatural activity. The church's history offers context for its spectral reputation. Built over a century ago, Old St. Paul's has witnessed generations of worshippers, weddings, baptisms, funerals, and personal tragedies. Epidemics, sudden deaths, and other hardships affected the congregation deeply, leaving emotional imprints that many believe continue to manifest as paranormal activity. The structure itself has aged alongside its community, its walls absorbing not only the sounds and sights of daily worship, but also the emotional resonance of sorrow, joy, and devotion. Staff and caretakers often experience the hauntings firsthand. Many report moments of being followed by unseen presences, feeling a weight on their shoulders, or noticing objects displaced without explanation. Some have felt sudden chills while arranging candles or preparing the altar, accompanied by the subtle sensation of being observed. Even those skeptical of ghosts admit that Old St. Paul's carries an energy unlike any other building, a palpable connection to the lives of those who came before. Visitors frequently describe encounters that are both profound and unsettling. Walking down the nave, they may feel a chill pass by, hear faint footsteps or murmurs, or glimpse a shadow moving silently among the pews. Candles flicker unexpectedly, and the distant tolling of the bell can send shivers down the spine. These experiences create an atmosphere in which history, faith, and the supernatural seem to intertwine, making every visit memorable and haunting. Paranormal researchers continue to document the activity at Old St. Paul's, using cameras, audio equipment, and environmental sensors to record anomalies. Cold spots, unexplained sounds, shadowy figures, and bell tolls have all been consistently observed, reinforcing the church's reputation as a hotspot for supernatural occurrences. Whether these manifestations are spirits of the past, residual energy, or a combination of factors, the evidence suggests that the historic church is far from quiet. Old St. Paul's Episcopal Church is more than just a building. It is a living chronicle of Jacksonville's history, a repository of devotion, grief, and lingering presence. The bells that toll without cause, the cold drafts that appear unexpectedly, and the ghostly clergy silently performing unseen services all serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. The church invites visitors to experience a sacred space where history and the supernatural coexist, offering both reverence and chills to those who dare to walk its aisles. The Church of the Good Shepherd in Maitland, Florida, is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine. Built over a century ago, this historic church has served generations of worshipers, hosting countless weddings, baptisms, funerals, and community gatherings. But beyond its role as a center of faith, the church has developed a reputation for paranormal activity that has intrigued both parishioners and visitors alike. Ghostly footsteps echo through the nave, candles flicker of their own accord, and shadowy figures in long robes are sometimes seen, moving silently among the pews, disappearing when approached. Paranormal investigators have recorded faint whispers and unexplained organ notes, further fueling the church's reputation as a site of spectral activity. Entering the church, one is immediately struck by the quiet reverence that permeates the space. The tall windows allow streams of sunlight to illuminate the worn wooden pews and the intricate carvings of the altar. Yet despite the beauty, there is an intangible tension in the air. Footsteps that do not match any human occupant seem to move along the aisles, sometimes pacing deliberately, as if following a ritual only they can understand. These auditory phenomena are often accompanied by sudden cold spots, chilling drafts that appear without explanation and linger just long enough to unsettle anyone who encounters them. One of the most frequently reported occurrences at the Church of the Good Shepherd involves ghostly figures in long, flowing robes. Witnesses describe seeing these shapes moving silently along the pews, kneeling at the altar, or crossing the nave as if engaged in a service that exists beyond the perception of the living. These apparitions are rarely threatening, but their sudden appearance and disappearance leave a lasting impression. Often, when a visitor approaches to get a closer look, the figure vanishes, leaving behind only a lingering sense of devotion and mystery. Paranormal experts suggest that these figures may be the spirits of clergy or devoted parishioners from the church's early days, replaying rituals or prayers that held deep meaning in life. Candles within the church have also been known to flicker and extinguish without cause. During evening visits, it is not uncommon for a single candle to ignite or flare momentarily as if in response to a presence. These occurrences are sometimes accompanied by faint whispers or murmurs, voices that seem to drift across the sanctuary in soft, unintelligible phrases. Some parishioners have interpreted these sounds as echoes of prayer, as though the spirits themselves are participating in worship, continuing their devotion even beyond death. Paranormal investigators equipped with audio recording devices have captured these whispers, which often appear on playback without any identifiable source, further confirming the reports of visitors and staff. The organ at the Church of the Good Shepherd is another focal point for unexplained activity. Even when unplayed, faint notes sometimes drift from its pipes, echoing throughout the nave. These sounds are subtle but unmistakable, often appearing at moments of quiet reflection or late at night when the church is empty. Paranormal researchers have attempted to document these phenomena, recording notes and tones that seem impossible to attribute to any mechanical cause. Adding to the building's reputation as a site of spiritual resonance, the church's history provides context for its hauntings. Established during a time when Maitland was a smaller, more intimate community, the Church of the Good Shepherd has seen generations of families pass through its doors. It has witnessed both joy and sorrow, celebrations of life alongside funerals marked by grief. Many early parishioners were laid to rest in nearby cemeteries, and some researchers speculate that the spiritual energy associated with these departed individuals lingers, connecting the sacred space with those who remain in memory and in spirit. Over time, the combination of architecture, history, and emotional energy has created an environment conducive to supernatural manifestations. Staff and caretakers often share their own experiences. Many describe moments of unease while cleaning or preparing the church for services, suddenly feeling a chill or sensing an invisible presence. Some report hearing footsteps or faint voices when no one else is present, or catching glimpses of a shadow passing along the walls or floor. Even long-serving members of the congregation, those familiar with the building's quirks, admit that certain phenomena cannot be explained by drafts, creaking wood, or electrical anomalies. The cumulative experiences of staff, visitors, and researchers suggest that the church is more than a historical building. It's a site where the past continues to manifest itself in subtle but undeniable ways. Visitors have often described the experience as both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Walking the aisles, they may feel a presence following them, hear the soft brush of a whisper against their ears, or notice a flicker of movement in the corner of their vision. Candles flare and fade inexplicably, and organ notes play without hands on the keys. The combination of visual, auditory, and sensory experiences creates a heightened awareness of the building's layered history and its ongoing connection to the spiritual realm. Paranormal investigators have returned repeatedly, documenting unexplained phenomena with cameras, audio devices, and environmental sensors. Shadowy figures, cold spots, and whispers are consistently reported and captured, reinforcing the church's reputation as a site of supernatural activity. While skeptics attribute some occurrences to environmental or psychological factors, the consistency and diversity of reports over decades suggest that there is more at work than mere coincidence. The St. Augustine Lighthouse Chapel, nestled within the historic lighthouse complex in Florida's oldest city, holds a quiet beauty by day, but by night it becomes a place where history and the supernatural converge. This small, weathered chapel has been a place of worship for sailors, lighthouse keepers, and local parishioners for generations. And with that long history come stories that defy explanation. Witnesses have reported a variety of unexplained phenomena: the tolling of bells on stormy nights when no one is in the tower, shadowy figures kneeling in prayer near the altar, and the chilling sensation of cold hands brushing past them in otherwise empty aisles. Paranormal enthusiasts believe these occurrences are the lingering presence of sailors and devout parishioners who have never truly left, bound to the chapel by devotion, tragedy, or unfinished business. The atmosphere of the chapel is immediately distinct. Even during the daylight hours, the air seems heavier, carrying with it the echoes of centuries of prayer and vigil. The simple wooden pews, the worn stone floors, and the altar adorned with aged candles create an environment of reverence, but also one that is permeated with unseen energy. Visitors often report feeling watched, a sensation of eyes upon them, even when the chapel is empty. Footsteps echo in unnatural ways. Shadows stretch along walls in shapes that seem almost human, and candles flicker or flare unexpectedly, as if responding to the presence of something unseen. Among the most persistent accounts is that of the chapel bells. Witnesses recount hearing them tolled during fierce storms, long after the lighthouse keeper has gone home for the evening. The sound is often deep and resonant, cutting through the wind and rain in a way that feels both urgent and mournful. Some say the bells ring in rhythm with events from the past, marking distress signals sent long ago to ships at sea. Others suggest the tolling is a spiritual echo, a call from departed souls to those who remain alive, reminding visitors of the chapel's long history and the sacrifices of its congregation. Shadowy figures are a frequent and chilling sight. Visitors have reported seeing indistinct shapes kneeling at the altar, moving slowly along the pews, or standing in the corners of the chapel as though participating in a service invisible to the living. These figures often wear indistinct clothing reminiscent of 18th and 19th century sailors or parishioners. Their forms semi-transparent and flickering in and out of view. When approached, they vanish, leaving behind a sudden stillness and a lingering sense of devotion that fills the space. Many witnesses describe the experience as both awe-inspiring and unnerving. A momentary glimpse into a world where the past and present coexist. The sensation of cold hands brushing past is another recurring phenomenon. Visitors report feeling an icy touch along their arms or shoulders while walking down the narrow aisles, even when no one else is present. These encounters are often accompanied by sudden shivers or goosebumps, and sometimes by flickering candles or whispers that drift through the empty chapel. Paranormal investigators suggest that these touches could be residual energy left by those who worshipped or sought comfort within the chapel long ago. Others believe that the sensation represents the physical imprint of spirits still tied to the chapel, a reminder that devotion can extend beyond death. Faint whispers and murmurs often accompany the visual and tactile phenomena. Visitors have reported hearing soft prayers, fragments of hymns, or indistinct voices calling names. The sounds are subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but they become unmistakable to anyone paying close attention. Paranormal researchers using audio equipment have captured recordings of these whispers, which appear to have no identifiable source. Some interpret them as the prayers of long-departed sailors or parishioners, continuing their devotion even in the afterlife. The chapel's small size and simple architecture amplify these experiences. Every creak in the wooden floorboards seems louder, every shadow sharper, and every flicker of candlelight more pronounced. Visitors frequently remark on how even the most ordinary aspects of the chapel feel imbued with energy. The combination of its historical significance, architectural features, and the intensity of human emotion over centuries creates an environment conducive to paranormal activity. The history of the St. Augustine Lighthouse Chapel offers context for the haunting. Established alongside the lighthouse, it served as a sanctuary for sailors seeking solace before voyages, as well as a spiritual home for the local community. Over the years, the chapel has witnessed joy, sorrow, life, and death. Many parishioners and lighthouse keepers passed away while attending services. Some tragically young, others after years of devotion. These untimely deaths, coupled with the chapel's role as a spiritual haven, may have left behind imprints that manifest as ghostly phenomena today. Caretakers and staff have long shared stories of unexplained occurrences. Some have felt cold drafts sweep through the building when all doors are closed, or heard footsteps echoing behind them only to find the space empty. Others have seen candles flare or extinguish without cause, or glimpsed figures near the altar that vanish when approached. Even skeptics find it difficult to ignore the cumulative evidence, as the experiences reported by staff, visitors, and investigators are consistent and persistent. Visitors describe their experiences at the chapel as a mixture of reverence, fear, and fascination. Walking down the aisles, they may witness shadowy figures, feel invisible hands, or hear the faint tolling of bells carried on the wind. Each sensation seems to tie the present moment to centuries of history, blending faith and the supernatural into a single, immersive experience. Paranormal investigators continue to document these occurrences, capturing cold spots, audio anomalies, and fleeting images, lending credence to the church's enduring reputation as a haunted site. Holy Trinity Episcopal Church in Melbourne, Florida, stands as both a place of worship and a site steeped in mystery. Established decades ago, the church has served its congregation faithfully, offering a sanctuary of spiritual solace amid the bustle of the city. Yet alongside its beauty and reverence, Holy Trinity has developed a reputation for paranormal activity that intrigues both churchgoers and visitors. Lights flicker unexpectedly during services, cold drafts sweep through empty aisles, and the church bell tolls without a visible source. Shadowy figures have been reported near the altar, moving silently before vanishing into the darkness, leaving witnesses with a mixture of awe and unease. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that these manifestations are echoes of past parishioners and clergy lingering within the sacred walls of the church. The first impression upon entering Holy Trinity is one of calm and solemnity. Sunlight filters through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the polished wooden pews and stone floors. The altar stands as a focal point of devotion, adorned with candles, sacred texts, and intricate carvings. Yet, despite the peaceful appearance, the church carries an energy that many describe as palpable. Visitors often feel the subtle sensation of being observed, as if unseen eyes are following them along the aisles. Footsteps, whispers, and faint creaks echo unnaturally, amplifying the sense that Holy Trinity is more than just a building, yet is a repository for the memories, devotion, and unresolved presences of those who came before. Among the most frequently reported phenomena is the unexplained flickering of lights. Parishioners have recounted moments during evening services when overhead lights or candle flames flicker suddenly, independent of drafts or electrical issues. These occurrences often coincide with moments of heightened emotion, such as during prayer or reflection, leading some to believe that the flickering lights are tied to spiritual energy. Witnesses describe the flicker as almost deliberate, a subtle sign that the church's unseen residents are present and acknowledging those who enter. Cold drafts are another hallmark of the church's spectral reputation. On warm days, visitors have reported feeling sudden chills in the middle of the nave, along corridors, and near the altar. These cold spots appear without warning, and unlike ordinary air currents, they seem to follow or linger around specific individuals. Many describe the sensation as a gentle brush or the passing of an unseen hand. Paranormal investigators suggest that these temperature anomalies are physical manifestations of residual spiritual energy, concentrated in areas with the strongest historical or emotional significance. The tolling of the church bell is perhaps the most unsettling and widely experienced phenomenon at Holy Trinity. Witnesses have reported hearing the bell ring late at night when the tower is empty, often resonating in patterns that seem purposeful. Some locals interpret the sound as a call from the past, echoing the dedication and devotion of parishioners. Others believe it is a warning or an invitation, a sound meant to alert the living to the presence of spirits that continue to inhabit the sacred space. Regardless of interpretation, the bell's mysterious tolling leaves a profound impression on those who hear it, blending both reverence and unease. Shadowy figures add a visual dimension to the church's haunting. Witnesses have described dark, indistinct shapes near the altar, in the corners of the nave, or kneeling in prayer along the pews. These figures are often fleeting, vanishing when approached, leaving behind only the lingering sense of devotion and presence. Some appear dressed in clerical robes, suggesting the spirits of past ministers, while others resemble parishioners in period attire. Paranormal experts believe these apparitions may represent residual echoes of ritual and devotion, moments so intense they have left an indelible imprint upon the building itself. Auditory phenomena are common at Holy Trinity. Visitors report hearing faint whispers, murmurs of prayer, or the soft rustle of robes in otherwise empty spaces. Some describe hearing the distant echo of organ notes or choir voices, as if a service is being performed just out of reach of human perception. Paranormal researchers have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP recordings, that include faint, unintelligible phrases, reinforcing claims of spectral activity. These sounds, coupled with visual sightings and cold spots, create a multi-sensory impression that the church is alive with unseen activity. The church's long history provides context for its paranormal reputation. Holy Trinity has been a site of continuous worship for decades, witnessing countless ceremonies, celebrations, and personal tragedies. It has been a haven for those seeking comfort and a place for reflection in times of grief. Some parishioners and clergy have passed away within its walls, and researchers suggest that the intensity of devotion and emotion over time has left residual energy that manifests as ghostly phenomena. The combination of architectural features, long-standing religious significance, and human emotion creates an environment that amplifies the possibility of supernatural occurrences. Staff and caretakers frequently report personal encounters. Many describe feeling a presence following them through the church, hearing footsteps behind them when no one is there, or experiencing sudden chills near the altar. Objects sometimes shift position slightly, candles flare, or doors move without explanation. Even those skeptical of the supernatural admit that the cumulative experiences are difficult to dismiss. As the phenomena appear consistent and repeatable, visitors often leave Holy Trinity with a mix of reverence, fascination, and apprehension. Walking the aisles, they may see shadowy figures, hear faint organ notes, or feel the brush of cold air against their skin. Flickering lights and the distant tolling of the bell create a sense of connection to the church's past, while also evoking the presence of spirits that continue to dwell within. Each experience is unique, yet all contributes to the sense that Holy Trinity is a place where the line between the living and the departed is unusually thin. St. Michael's Catholic Church in Pensacola, Florida, stands as a solemn testament to faith, history, and the mysterious presence of the past. Built in the 19th century, this venerable church has witnessed generations of worshipers passing through its doors, from joyous baptisms to somber funerals. Yet beneath its serene exterior lies a reputation that has long fascinated locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. St. Michael's is said to be haunted by the spirit of a former priest who served the parish over a century ago. Witnesses have reported a variety of unexplained phenomena, including the tolling of bells at midnight when no one is present, doors opening and closing on their own, and shadowy figures kneeling silently in the pews. Paranormal investigators describe the church as having a heavy, oppressive atmosphere, as though the weight of history and lingering spirits presses down on all who enter. The first thing a visitor notices upon entering St. Michael's is the distinct atmosphere. The air is dense, almost tangible, carrying with it echoes of past prayers and solemn ceremonies. The pews, polished over decades of use, stretch along the nave toward an intricately carved altar, illuminated by the soft glow of candlelight filtering through stained glass windows. Despite the beauty of the architecture and the sense of reverence, there is a pervasive feeling that the church is not entirely empty. Visitors often report an unsettling sensation of being watched, accompanied by faint, unexplained sounds echoing through the aisles. Footsteps, whispers, and the occasional creaking of wooden floors seem to come from no visible source, as though the church itself retains memories of the people who once filled it. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at St. Michael's is the tolling of the church bells. Witnesses have recounted hearing the bells ring sharply at midnight, the sound cutting through the quiet streets of Pensacola, even when the tower is empty. The tolls are not random. Many describe a rhythm or cadence that feels deliberate, almost as if communicating something from beyond. Some locals believe the bells mark moments of spiritual significance, echoing the devotion of the priest, whose presence is said to linger. Others suggest the sound may be an echo of distress or a warning, a manifestation of a soul bound to the church long after death. Regardless of interpretation, the midnight bell tolls leave an indelible impression, merging the sacred and the supernatural in a moment both chilling and reverent. Shadowy figures are a hallmark of St. Michael's hauntings. Parishioners and visitors alike have reported seeing dark silhouettes kneeling silently in the pews, standing near the altar, or gliding along the aisles. These figures are often indistinct, semi-transparent, and sometimes flicker in and out of existence. Many witnesses describe them as wearing robes reminiscent of clerical attire from the 19th century, suggesting that the apparitions may be connected to the priest or other clergy who served the church in its early years. When approached, these figures vanish, leaving only a lingering sense of devotion and presence. Some interpret these sightings as manifestations of the priest's lingering commitment to the parish, performing duties even in death. Doors opening and closing without explanation are another frequent occurrence. Visitors report doors that swing wide open, then close on their own, often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature. These unexplained movements of physical objects contribute to the oppressive feeling described by many, creating the sense that unseen forces are actively present. Paranormal researchers suggest that these events are more than simple mechanical malfunctions, given their timing and consistency, and may be linked to residual spiritual energy associated with the church and its history. The atmosphere within St. Michael's has been described as heavy and oppressive, a quality that is difficult to quantify but easy to sense. Even in the absence of visual or auditory phenomena, visitors often report feelings of unease or dread, as if the church itself carries the weight of its past. Many researchers believe that this sensation is tied to the cumulative emotional and spiritual energy of those who lived, worshipped, and died within the building. The intensity of the priest's devotion and the tragedies he may have witnessed during his tenure could have left a profound imprint, manifesting in the paranormal activity reported today. Auditory phenomena further enhanced the church's haunted reputation. In addition to the bell tolls, faint whispers are sometimes heard drifting through the nave, often sounding like fragments of prayers or murmured instructions. Some visitors describe hearing footsteps pacing along corridors or the soft shuffle of robes moving across the floor, even when no one else is present. Paranormal investigators using audio recording equipment have captured sounds that cannot be explained by environmental factors, lending credibility to the many first-hand accounts. The history of St. Michael's provides context for its supernatural activity. Established in the 19th century, the church has been a spiritual home for countless families, witnessing weddings, baptisms, funerals, and everyday acts of devotion. Many of its early parishioners are buried nearby, and the priest whose presence is reported may have died within its walls. Researchers suggest that the combination of intense spiritual activity, strong emotional energy, and historical significance has created an environment where the boundaries between the living and the dead are blurred, allowing spirits to linger and interact with the physical world. Caretakers and long-term parishioners often recount personal experiences. Some describe walking the aisles during preparation for services, only to feel sudden chills or sense a presence behind them. Others hear the soft creak of footsteps, only to turn and find the church empty. Candles have been known to flare or extinguish spontaneously, and doors have swung open with no apparent cause. Even those skeptical of the paranormal admit that the phenomena are difficult to dismiss, given their consistency and the breadth of eyewitness accounts. Visitors to St. Michael's leave with a profound sense of both reverence and unease. Walking through the church, they may encounter shadowy figures, hear the bell toll in the empty tower, or feel the brush of a cold hand against their skin. Flickering lights and whispering voices create an immersive, multisensory experience that connects the present to the past. St. Michael's Catholic Church is not merely a historical building. It is a space where devotion, history, and the supernatural intersect, leaving all who enter with an unforgettable impression of mystery and the enduring presence of faith beyond the grave. St. James Episcopal Church in Tallahassee, Florida, stands as a historic landmark and a center of spiritual devotion, but it is also a place steeped in mystery. Established in the 19th century, the church has witnessed generations of worshipers, solemn ceremonies, and the ebb and flow of life in the community. Over the years, St. James has developed a reputation for paranormal activity, drawing both believers in the supernatural and curious visitors eager to witness its unexplained occurrences. Reports of ghostly congregants, candles lighting themselves, and bells ringing at odd hours have become part of the church's lore. Many believe that these manifestations are connected to parishioners who died during early epidemics, their spirits lingering to continue worship or remain close to the sacred space they once cherished. Upon entering St. James Episcopal Church, visitors are immediately struck by its solemn and reverent atmosphere. The pews, worn smooth by decades of use, stretch toward an intricately carved altar, bathed in the warm glow of sunlight filtering through stained glass windows. The church's architecture combines elegance with simplicity. Yet beneath its serene appearance lies a presence that some describe as heavy or almost tangible. Many report feeling a sense of being watched, a subtle pressure or weight that follows them through the aisles, as though unseen eyes observe their every movement. Footsteps echo along the polished wooden floors, often when no one else is present, and whispers seem to drift through the church, faint but unmistakable. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the appearance of ghostly witnesses describe shadowy figures seated in the pews, sometimes standing or moving along the aisles, often dressed in attire reminiscent of the 19th or early 20th centuries. These figures appear quietly and respectfully, as if participating in a service invisible to the living. When approached, they vanish, leaving behind only the lingering impression of devotion and reverence. Many believe these apparitions are the spirits of parishioners who perished during epidemics, their lives cut short, yet their faith enduring beyond death. The sight of these figures has been described as both eerie and moving, a reminder of the deep spiritual connection between the living and those who have passed on. Candles that light themselves are another frequently reported occurrence. Visitors and staff alike have recounted instances where altar candles or votive lights flicker to life without any visible cause. The flames burn steadily, often remaining lit for hours, and extinguish only when a breeze from outside finally reaches them. Some interpret this phenomenon as a sign of lingering spiritual presence, an indication that the departed are attempting to participate in ongoing rituals or draw attention to the sacredness of the space. Paranormal investigators have documented these events, noting that no electrical or environmental explanation can account for the sudden illumination of the candles. The tolling of church bells at irregular hours adds another layer to the haunted reputation of St. James. Witnesses have reported hearing the bells ring late at night, long after the church has been locked and the tower emptied. The tolling often follows a rhythm, almost as if communicating a message or signaling a presence. Locals speculate that the bells are connected to the spirits of parishioners who died tragically or suddenly, their voices carried through sound rather than sight. The combination of the tolling bells and shadowy figures creates a palpable tension in the church, blending reverence with the eerie sensation that the past is actively intersecting with the present. Temperature anomalies are also commonly experienced by those visiting St. James. Cold spots appear suddenly, often near the altar, along corridors, or where the ghostly congregants have been reported. These cold drafts are described as intense and localized, different from ordinary air currents, and sometimes accompanied by the subtle brush of unseen hands. Visitors often shiver or feel a weight upon them in these moments, an indication, many believe, of the presence of spirits bound to the church by devotion or unfinished business. Paranormal researchers suggest that the combination of historical tragedy, concentrated spiritual energy, and long-standing rituals may have contributed to the manifestation of these phenomena. Auditory experiences are frequently reported as well. Whispered prayers, faint hymns, and soft footfalls are often heard in the empty church. Some describe these sounds as echoing through the nave, originating from no visible source, or occurring during moments of quiet reflection. Investigators equipped with audio recording devices have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, and other unexplainable sounds, lending credibility to first-hand accounts. Many attribute these experiences to the lingering presence of the faithful who once worshipped at St. James, continuing their devotion even after death. The church's long history provides a backdrop for understanding its haunting. St. James served as a spiritual home during times of both prosperity and hardship, witnessing epidemics, personal tragedies, and community upheaval. Many early parishioners died prematurely, and the church's continued use as a place of worship has created a concentration of emotional and spiritual energy over time. Researchers suggest that this combination of history, emotion, and sacred ritual makes the church particularly susceptible to residual or active paranormal activity. Caretakers and clergy have often recounted their own experiences. They report feeling sudden chills, hearing footsteps behind them, or sensing a presence nearby during routine tasks. Some have witnessed objects move slightly, candles ignite, or doors creak open with no one present. Even those skeptical of the supernatural acknowledge the consistency and frequency of these occurrences. noting that the weight of evidence is difficult to dismiss. Visitors leave St. James Episcopal Church with a mix of awe, unease, and reverence. Walking through the nave, they may glimpse shadowy congregants, hear bells toll in the empty tower, or feel the brush of a cold hand. Candles may flare or light themselves, and faint whispers accompany the echoes of prayers from long ago. The church is more than a building. It is a space where history, devotion, and the supernatural converge, creating an atmosphere that is both haunting and profoundly moving. Old Christ Church in Pensacola, Florida, stands as one of the oldest and most storied houses of worship in the state. Its weathered brick walls and centuries-old wooden pews are steeped in history, bearing silent witness to generations of parishioners, weddings, funerals, and countless sermons. Yet alongside its historical significance, Old Christ Church carries a chilling reputation. It is considered one of Florida's most haunted churches. Visitors, parishioners, and paranormal investigators alike report a range of supernatural phenomena. From bells tolling in the dead of night to shadowy figures moving silently through the nave, and even the sensation of unseen hands gently touching their shoulders. The church's exterior, with its aged steeple and moss-covered roof, exudes a quiet dignity. Inside, the atmosphere is a combination of reverence and something more intangible, a presence that many describe as palpable. Walking down the nave, one is immediately aware of the church's long history, but also of an eerie energy that seems to linger in the air. Witnesses have often remarked that even on sunny days, the interior feels cooler than the outside. A chill that appears inexplicable and often coincides with reports of paranormal activity. Among the most widely reported phenomena at Old Christ Church is the unexplained ringing of the bells. Multiple accounts describe hearing the bells toll in the middle of the night when the tower is empty and no one is nearby. The sound carries across the surrounding streets, echoing through the quiet Pensacola neighborhood, leaving those who hear it unsettled. Some describe the ringing as rhythmic, almost deliberate, as though calling attention to itself or signaling a presence. Paranormal researchers speculate that the bell tolls may be tied to the spiritual energy of past parishioners or clergy, or even as a residual imprint of significant events in the church's history, including deaths and tragic accidents. Shadowy figures are another hallmark of the church's haunted reputation. Visitors and staff have reported seeing dark, indistinct shapes gliding along the aisles, kneeling in prayer, or standing near the altar. These figures are often described as semi-transparent, fading in and out of visibility, and sometimes appearing to wear the attire of clergy from earlier centuries. When approached, the figures vanish, leaving only a lingering chill or the faint scent of old incense. Many believe these apparitions are the spirits of priests, parishioners, or early settlers who were deeply connected to the church and whose devotion has kept them anchored to its walls long after death. Physical sensations are also commonly reported within Old Christ Church. Visitors sometimes feel a gentle touch on their shoulders or the brush of a hand against their arm, particularly when moving through the nave or near the altar. These touches are not forceful or threatening, but rather subtle and fleeting, leaving a mix of curiosity and unease. Some interpret these sensations as signs of protection or blessing from spirits who remain attached to the church, while others believe they are residual echoes of intense devotion and prayer from centuries past. Candles within the church also exhibit strange behavior. Witnesses have recounted seeing flames flicker or ignite spontaneously, even in the absence of drafts or electrical issues. These occurrences often coincide with moments of stillness or quiet reflection, as if the church itself is responding to the presence of visitors or spiritual energy within its walls. Paranormal investigators have recorded these events, noting that they cannot be explained by ordinary environmental factors. The combination of flickering lights, spontaneous candle flames, and ghostly touches contributes to the church's reputation as a site where the boundary between the living and the spiritual is thin. Auditory phenomena further reinforce the sense of haunting. Beyond the bells, visitors report hearing faint whispers, murmured prayers, or the soft echo of footsteps along wooden floors. Some describe hearing chanting or hymn-like tones in moments of deep silence, as though a service from the past is replaying itself. Paranormal experts have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, and other unexplainable sounds within the church, lending credibility to reports from first-hand witnesses. These auditory experiences are often subtle, but combined with visual sightings and physical sensations, they create a profound sense of presence and continuity. The history of Old Christ Church provides context for its haunted reputation. As one of Pensacola's oldest churches, it has endured wars, epidemics, and countless personal tragedies within its walls. Many early parishioners and clergy are buried nearby, and their lives were often cut short by illness or accident. Researchers suggest that the emotional and spiritual energy accumulated over decades, combined with the intensity of devotion within a sacred space, has contributed to the persistence of supernatural phenomena. The building itself, with its age, architecture, and materials, may act as a vessel for residual energy, preserving echoes of the past for those who enter today. Caretakers, parishioners, and visitors alike have shared personal experiences. Many recount entering the church to find pews slightly moved, candles flickering, or the sensation of a presence behind them. Some have seen shadows linger near the altar or along the side aisles, disappearing when approached. Others have felt chills, unexplained gusts of cold air, or gentle touches. Even skeptics admit that the consistency of these occurrences is difficult to ignore. As the phenomena appear across decades and among different observers, visitors leave Old Christ Church with a sense of reverence intertwined with unease. Walking down the aisles, they may see shadowy figures, feel a fleeting touch, or hear the bells toll in the dead of night. Candles may flare or light spontaneously, and whispers may drift softly through the nave. The church becomes a living museum of devotion, history, and the supernatural, where the echoes of the past persist alongside the living. First Presbyterian Church in Key West, Florida, is more than just a historic house of worship. It is a place where the past lingers in ways both beautiful and unsettling. Built in the 19th century, the church has long served the spiritual needs of the island community, witnessing weddings, baptisms, funerals, and countless moments of personal devotion. Yet beyond its architectural charm and historical significance, the church has earned a reputation for paranormal activity that has intrigued locals, visitors, and ghost hunters alike. Ghostly footsteps, unexplained cold drafts, bells tolling in the dead of night, and the eerie playing of the organ have all been reported. Many paranormal enthusiasts claim to have seen the apparitions of ministers delivering sermons to empty pews, as though the congregation of the past still gathers within the nave. Visitors to First Presbyterian Church often describe an atmosphere that is immediately distinct upon entering. The air carries a weight that is both reverent and chilling, a subtle energy that hints at the presence of something unseen. Even during the day, when sunlight streams through stained glass windows and illuminates the polished wooden pews, there is a sense that the church is never truly empty. Footsteps echo along the aisles for no apparent reason, and whispers, soft and indecipherable, seem to drift through the sanctuary. Some describe the sensation of being watched, as if unseen eyes are observing their movements, following them from pew to pew. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the unexplained tolling of the church bells. Witnesses recount hearing the bells ring late at night, long after the building is locked and the tower is empty. The sound carries across the quiet streets of Key West, reverberating through the surrounding neighborhood and leaving those who hear it both startled and intrigued. Some suggest the bells ring to mark moments of spiritual significance, while others believe they are echoes of past clergy or parishioners who are still tethered to the church in some way. The midnight tolls have become a central part of the church's haunted reputation, blending the sacred with the supernatural in an unnerving harmony. Ghostly ministers are another hallmark of the church's paranormal activity. Visitors have reported seeing dark, semi-transparent figures at the pulpit, delivering sermons to pews that remain empty. These apparitions are often described as wearing clerical robes, consistent with 19th century attire. and their presence is accompanied by the faint sound of words being spoken, though they are sometimes too soft to discern. When approached, the figures vanish as if dissolving into the air itself. Witnesses interpret these apparitions as residual echoes of devotion or unfinished spiritual duties, a representation of clergy continuing their sacred work beyond the mortal realm. The organ at First Presbyterian Church has also been the source of numerous supernatural reports. Parishioners and visitors alike have heard the instrument play late at night, despite there being no one at the keys. The music is often described as hauntingly beautiful, with a mournful, almost ethereal quality. Some report that the organ plays hymns familiar to the congregation, while others hear music that seems entirely unknown, further enhancing the sense of mystery. Investigators, equipped with recording devices, have captured these sounds with no identifiable source, reinforcing claims that the church's musical instruments respond to spiritual presence rather than human intervention. Temperature fluctuations and cold drafts are also commonly reported. Visitors often feel sudden drops in temperature in specific areas of the church, particularly near the pulpit, altar, or the organ. These chills are sometimes accompanied by an inexplicable sense of pressure, or the feeling of an unseen presence brushing past. Many paranormal experts believe that such temperature anomalies are indicative of spiritual energy or manifestations, particularly in buildings with long histories of devotion and emotional intensity. The combination of sight, sound, and tactile phenomena creates a multisensory experience that leaves a lasting impression on those who enter the church. Auditory phenomena extend beyond the organ and bells. Soft murmurs, whispers, and faint echoes of sermons have been reported throughout the sanctuary. Some describe hearing footsteps pacing along the aisles, often stopping just out of sight. Others recount hearing the faint rustle of robes, as if clergy are moving about the church unseen. Paranormal investigators have documented electronic voice phenomena, EVP, and other unexplainable sounds that cannot be attributed to environmental factors or structural issues, lending credibility to the numerous first-hand accounts. The history of First Presbyterian Church provides context for its haunted reputation. As one of the oldest churches in Key West, it has seen generations of worshipers and has endured epidemics, storms, and other tragedies that affected the community. Many of its early clergy and parishioners are buried nearby, and their spirits are believed to have remained close to the sacred space they once attended. The emotional and spiritual energy accumulated over decades of devotion, combined with the intensity of personal tragedies, may have contributed to the lingering presence of spirits that continue to interact with the living. Caretakers and longtime parishioners have shared stories of personal encounters within the church. Some have witnessed shadows lingering near the altar. Others have felt unexplained touches on their shoulders or sensed sudden chills. Candles have flickered without cause, doors have creaked open, and the organ has played itself. Even those skeptical of the supernatural find these experiences difficult to ignore. Given the consistency and frequency of reports across decades, visitors leave First Presbyterian Church with a complex mixture of awe, reverence, and unease. Walking down the aisles, they may see ghostly ministers delivering sermons, hear the organ play in the empty sanctuary, or feel the brush of a cold, unseen hand. Bells may toll at midnight, echoing through the streets and leaving a sense of mystery in their wake. The church is more than a building. It is a space where history, faith, and the supernatural converge, allowing the presence of the past to remain vividly alive. St. Augustine, Florida, is renowned for its rich history, cobblestone streets, and colonial architecture. But among its historic landmarks, St. Augustine Cathedral stands out for more than its beauty. As one of the oldest churches in the United States, it has borne witness to centuries of devotion, tragedy, and human experience. Over time, this sacred space has developed a reputation for the supernatural. Parishioners, visitors, and local historians alike have reported a host of unexplained phenomena. Bells tolling in the dead of night, with no one in the bell tower, sudden cold drafts sweeping the aisles, and shadowy figures gliding silently among the pews. Some believe these manifestations are the lingering spirits of early settlers, trapped in a cycle of worship that never truly ended. Walking through the cathedral, even during daylight hours, evokes a palpable sense of the past. The vaulted ceilings, stained glass windows, and weathered wooden pews create a sense of reverence. But there is an underlying tension that cannot be ignored. Visitors often report feeling an unseen presence, as if invisible eyes are watching every movement. Footsteps echo unnaturally through the nave, and doors creak open or close without warning, even when the building is empty. The architecture itself seems to amplify sounds and shadows, making the ordinary seem uncanny. The midnight bell phenomenon is among the most widely reported occurrences at St. Augustine Cathedral. Residents and visitors have recounted hearing the tolling of bells long after the bell ringers have gone home. These sounds often appear precisely at the stroke of midnight, echoing across the quiet streets of St. Augustine. Some claim that the tones are not only audible but carry a haunting resonance, as though mourning or calling out from the past. Historians note that the cathedral's bell tower has been standing for centuries, witnessing both celebrations and tragedies, and it is possible that the emotional weight of these events manifests through the chimes. Parishioners attending late-night or early morning services have reported sudden drops in temperature. Even on warm Florida nights, cold drafts sweep through the aisles unpredictably, creating goosebumps and an almost tangible sense of unease. These chills are often accompanied by flickering candlelight or the subtle movement of shadows along the walls and pews. Some visitors have described the sensation as a presence brushing past them, intangible yet undeniably real. Paranormal researchers suggest that these cold spots may be linked to residual energy, imprints left behind by the emotional experiences of centuries of worshippers. Shadowy figures are frequently observed moving through the cathedral. Witnesses describe indistinct silhouettes gliding along the aisles or kneeling in the pews, often disappearing when approached. Others report seeing figures near the altar or in the side chapels, as if engaged in silent prayer. These apparitions are rarely threatening, but their presence conveys a powerful reminder of the lives and devotion that shaped the cathedral over hundreds of years. Unexplained sounds often accompany these visual phenomena. Visitors have reported whispers drifting through empty halls, the soft rustle of robes along the stone floors, and the faint creak of pews that appear occupied, though no one is present. Some have even heard the sound of footsteps ascending the stairs to the bell tower, though the steps remain untouched. Paranormal investigators have captured audio recordings of these anomalies, noting faint voices and footfalls that cannot be explained by environmental factors alone. The cathedral's long and complex history contributes to its haunted reputation. Built in the 16th century, it has endured fires, storms, and periods of intense hardship for its congregation. Generations of settlers worshipped within its walls, and many were buried nearby or passed away within its precincts. Tragedy, disease, and hardship were all part of the lives of those who attended the church, leaving an emotional residue that some believe continues to manifest in the form of spectral activity. Staff members and caretakers who spend long hours inside the cathedral frequently report a sense of unease. Many describe moments when they feel watched or hear sudden noises in areas they know to be empty. Some recount seeing fleeting shadows or feeling the brush of a presence while arranging candles or cleaning pews. Even those skeptical of the paranormal admit that the cathedral has a unique atmosphere, an almost tangible connection to the lives and emotions of those who came before. Visitors often find the experience both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Walking through the nave, they may notice an unexplainable chill, hear the faint toll of bells in the distance, or catch sight of a shadow moving between stained glass panels. Some report a sensation of being guided or accompanied, as if unseen worshippers are participating silently alongside them. The combination of history, architecture, and reported supernatural occurrences creates an environment that is simultaneously sacred and mysterious. Historians and paranormal researchers alike note that St. Augustine Cathedral's hauntings are consistent with locations that have experienced centuries of concentrated human emotion. whether the phenomena are the result of spirits of the past, residual energy, or a combination of environmental and psychological factors. The experiences reported by countless witnesses over decades are difficult to ignore. For those who enter St. Augustine Cathedral, the evidence of lingering presence is subtle yet undeniable. Bells toll without wind. Cold drafts sweep the aisles. Shadows move silently among the pews, and whispers drift through empty halls. These manifestations serve as a reminder that the cathedral is more than just a historical building. It's a repository of memory, devotion, and the unbroken human connection that spans generations. The spirits of early settlers, whether lingering out of devotion or unrest, continue to inhabit the sacred space, inviting those who walk its aisles to experience the intersection of history, faith, and the supernatural. St. Peter's Episcopal Church in St. Petersburg, Florida, is a place where history, faith, and the supernatural converge. Established over a century ago, the church has witnessed generations of worshipers, hosting ceremonies ranging from baptisms and weddings to funerals and memorial services. Its Gothic-inspired architecture, with towering steeples and intricate stained glass, gives the building an air of solemnity. Yet within its walls lies a legacy of unexplained phenomena that has intrigued visitors, parishioners, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Reports of ghostly apparitions, sudden drops in temperature, and the unexpected tolling of bells have made St. Peter's a focal point for those interested in the supernatural. Many believe that the spirits lingering here are former parishioners who passed away young, still attending services in the afterlife. Visitors to St. Peter's often describe a sense of unease upon entering. The air seems heavy with energy, a combination of devotion and lingering presence. Even during daylight hours, certain corners of the church feel colder than others, and shadows seem to shift at the edge of vision. Footsteps echo along the wooden floors, sometimes coinciding with the movement of visitors, and whispers soft, indistinct, and ethereal drift through the nave. These sounds are subtle but persistent, leaving a lasting impression on those who hear them. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at St. Peter's is the ringing of the church bells at unexpected times. Witnesses recount hearing the bells toll in the middle of the night or during quiet afternoons. Long after the bell tower has been locked and emptied, the sound carries through the surrounding streets, resonating with a haunting clarity. Some suggest the bells ring to mark moments of spiritual significance or tragedy, while others believe they are connected to the spirits of parishioners who remain tied to the church even in death. These occurrences have been documented repeatedly, often coinciding with other supernatural activity within the sanctuary. Shadowy figures are another hallmark of the church's paranormal activity. Visitors frequently report seeing dark, indistinct shapes near the altar or along the aisles. Some appear to kneel in prayer, while others seem to glide silently through the pews. These apparitions often fade when approached, leaving only the sense that someone or something was present moments before. Witnesses describe these figures as being dressed in clothing reminiscent of early 20th century parishioners, lending credence to the theory that they are the spirits of those who worshipped here long ago. Many parishioners interpret these sightings as comforting rather than threatening, believing that the departed continue their devotion in the sacred space they once called home. Temperature anomalies and sudden cold spots are also commonly reported within St. Peter's. Visitors often feel chills when passing certain areas, particularly near the altar, pews, or side chapels. These drops in temperature can be abrupt and localized, creating an unsettling contrast to the otherwise warm interior. Some individuals have reported feeling a brush against their shoulder or a light pressure in the air. Fleeting sensations that reinforce the idea of a lingering spiritual presence. Paranormal investigators suggest that these physical manifestations are evidence of residual energy, possibly stemming from the strong emotional and spiritual connections formed over the church's long history. Auditory phenomena extend beyond the ringing of bells and the echo of footsteps. Witnesses report faint whispers, the rustle of fabric, and soft chanting that seems to emanate from areas of the church where no one is present. In some instances, visitors hear the distant melody of hymns, even when no organist is at the keyboard. Paranormal experts have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, during investigations, revealing voices speaking words that are often prayers or parts of sermons. These auditory manifestations combine with visual and tactile experiences, creating a multi-sensory impression of the supernatural that has fascinated observers for decades. The history of St. Peter's Episcopal Church sheds light on the origins of these hauntings. Over the years, the church has witnessed the lives and deaths of countless parishioners, including many who died tragically young. Epidemics, accidents, and other misfortunes claimed the lives of some congregants, leaving a spiritual imprint on the building. Longtime parishioners and clergy have shared stories of apparitions resembling children or young adults, kneeling in prayer or silently attending services. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that these spirits remain attached to the church out of devotion, continuing to participate in worship as they did in life. Caretakers and visitors alike have shared numerous personal experiences. Some describe seeing shadowy forms moving through the aisles, feeling sudden cold drafts, or hearing the church bells toll with no one in sight. Others have witnessed flickering candle flames, the faint sound of music, or whispers that seem to come from nowhere. These consistent accounts, recorded over decades, support the idea that St. Peter's is a location where the boundaries between the living and the spiritual are remarkably thin. Walking through St. Peter's Episcopal Church, one cannot help but feel a profound mixture of reverence and unease. The flicker of candlelight, the distant tolling of bells, the subtle whispers, and the shadowy figures all contribute to an atmosphere where the past continues to interact with the present. It is a church where devotion and memory are palpable, where the spirits of parishioners linger in quiet worship, and where the mysteries of life and death coexist in a sacred setting. The Church of the Holy Name in Tampa, Florida, is a place where history, faith, and the unexplained converge. Established decades ago, the church has served generations of worshipers, hosting weddings, baptisms, funerals, and regular services. Its high ceilings, stained glass windows, and polished wooden pews create an atmosphere of reverence. Yet beneath the beauty lies a history of mysterious occurrences that have long fascinated locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Bells that toll during storms with no one in the tower, candles that extinguish themselves, cold spots, and shadowy figures kneeling in prayer are all part of the church's eerie reputation. Visitors often describe an immediate sense of stillness upon entering. The air carries a weight, as though infused with the memories and devotion of countless worshippers who have passed through over the years. Some report the sudden sensation of cold drafts moving along the aisles, sometimes accompanied by a feeling that someone is watching from the shadows. These cold spots appear unpredictably, leaving visitors shivering even on warm Florida days. The sense of being observed adds an unsettling dimension, as though the spirits of the past linger to silently witness the faithful. The church's bells are a frequent source of mystery. Witnesses recount hearing them toll during heavy storms, even though the bell tower is locked and empty. The sound resonates across the surrounding streets, carrying a haunting tone that seems both mournful and commanding. Many believe the tolling is connected to spiritual energy, marking moments of significance or signaling the presence of restless souls. Others speculate that the bells echo the memories of clergy or parishioners from decades past, unable to leave the sacred grounds they once served in life. Regardless of the cause, the phenomenon has become a defining feature of the church's paranormal lore. Shadowy figures are another commonly reported occurrence. Visitors and parishioners have seen fleeting, indistinct shapes kneeling near the altar or gliding silently along the pews. These figures vanish when approached but leave behind an unmistakable sense of presence. Some appear to be clergy or devout parishioners from earlier generations, dressed in long robes, performing silent acts of devotion. Witnesses often describe these apparitions as calm and reverent rather than threatening, suggesting a spiritual connection to the church rather than malevolence. Candles behaving inexplicably add another layer of mystery. Witnesses have seen flames flicker violently or extinguish themselves without cause. Sometimes during quiet moments, when no breeze is present, the candle's behavior often coincides with other phenomenical drafts, whispers, or the appearance of shadowy figures, hinting at an unseen energy influencing the environment. Paranormal experts suggest these events may be manifestations of residual energy, echoes of devotion, grief, or prayer left behind by those who once frequented the church. Auditory phenomena are also common. Faint whispers, the creaking of pews, or the soft sound of footsteps echoing in empty hallways have been reported repeatedly. Paranormal investigators, using recording devices, have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, picking up voices that seem to murmur prayers or speak indistinct words. These sounds, combined with visual and physical experiences, create a multisensory impression of the supernatural, reinforcing the feeling that the church is a place where the living and the spiritual worlds intersect. The history of the Church of the Holy Name offers insight into its haunted reputation. Generations of worshippers have passed through its doors, some leaving abruptly through tragedy or sudden death. Many devoted their lives to the church, creating deep emotional and spiritual ties that may linger in the environment. Paranormal researchers suggest that this accumulation of devotion, grief, and reverence may create residual energy, which manifests as apparitions, sounds, or tactile phenomena. Caretakers and parishioners alike have shared countless personal accounts. Some report seeing shadowy figures kneeling in prayer, while others feel sudden cold drafts or witness candles extinguishing themselves. Bells toll unexpectedly, and faint whispers can be detected in empty aisles. These consistent reports, often spanning decades, suggest that the church is more than just a historical or religious landmark. It is a space where the spiritual past continues to interact with the present, leaving a palpable impression on anyone who enters. Walking through the Church of the Holy Name, visitors often feel a mix of awe, reverence, and unease. The flicker of candlelight, the tolling of bells, shadowy figures gliding among the pews, and cold drafts tracing unseen paths all contribute to a sense that the church is alive in a way that transcends the physical. It is a space where faith and the unexplained coexist, a place where the devotion of generations past continues to resonate. Trinity Episcopal Church in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, is a place where centuries of faith meet an enduring sense of mystery. Built over 100 years ago, the church has witnessed generations of worshipers, hosting countless baptisms, weddings, funerals, and regular services. Its Gothic-inspired architecture, with soaring ceilings, stained glass windows, and wooden pews worn smooth by decades of use, creates an atmosphere of solemnity and devotion. Yet beneath the sacred beauty lies a reputation for the unexplained. Phantom figures, mysterious noises, bells that toll without a bell ringer, and sudden cold drafts make Trinity Episcopal a focal point for paranormal activity in the region. Visitors and parishioners alike speak of an energy that seems to linger in the air, a spiritual presence that refuses to rest. Many who enter Trinity Episcopal immediately notice an intangible tension in the space. The scent of polished wood, incense, and old stone fills the air, but the stillness feels weighted, almost alive. Shadows appear to move at the edges of vision, and quiet whispers seem to drift through the aisles. Footsteps echo in parts of the church that are completely empty, and cold drafts appear unpredictably, chilling those walking through the nave or standing near the altar. This combination of visual, auditory, and tactile experiences leaves a lasting impression, prompting some to wonder whether the church is a doorway between the living and the spiritual. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at Trinity Episcopal is the unexpected tolling of its bells. Witnesses describe hearing the bells ring in the dead of night or during quiet moments, long after the bell tower has been locked and emptied. The sound resonates across the surrounding streets, carrying a haunting tone that seems both mournful and commanding. Some suggest the bells are ringing in response to spiritual energy, marking moments of remembrance or devotion, while others believe the sounds reflect the presence of past parishioners or clergy who remain connected to the church in death. Regardless of the explanation, The mysterious ringing has become one of the most enduring and chilling aspects of Trinity Episcopal. Phantom figures are another hallmark of the church's hauntings. These figures are often described as faint or translucent, fading when approached, but their presence is unmistakable. Some appear to wear attire reminiscent of clergy or parishioners from the early 20th century, suggesting that the spirits are bound to the church by devotion, continuing the acts of worship they performed in life. Witnesses often describe these apparitions as non-threatening, even reverent, giving the impression that the departed are simply maintaining a spiritual vigil. Unexplained noises are also a common occurrence. Soft whispers, the rustle of fabric, the distant sound of footsteps, and even faint organ notes have been reported in empty areas of the church. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, recording voices that seem to be offering prayers or echoing fragments of sermons. These auditory experiences, paired with visual and physical sensations, create a multi-layered sense of the supernatural, reinforcing the church's reputation as a site of intense spiritual activity. Cold drafts and sudden drops in temperature contribute to the eerie atmosphere. Visitors often feel an abrupt chill near the altar, in pews, or along hallways, even when the rest of the church remains warm. Paranormal experts suggest these occurrences may be residual energy left behind by centuries of devotion and emotion, forming an invisible imprint that manifests physically for those present. The history of Trinity Episcopal offers insight into why the church is so imbued with spiritual energy. Over its long existence, the building has been a witness to countless personal triumphs, tragedies, and acts of devotion. Parishioners who passed away young, clergy who dedicated their lives to the church, and ordinary worshipers who spent decades within its walls, all left an imprint of emotional and spiritual energy. Paranormal researchers believe that this accumulation of devotion, grief, and reverence can create lingering spiritual presences, which manifest as apparitions, sounds, and tactile phenomena. Caretakers, parishioners, and casual visitors have shared countless experiences. Some have seen shadowy figures kneeling or walking silently through the pews, felt cold gusts or sudden drops in temperature, or witnessed bells toll without explanation. Others have heard whispers or faint footsteps in areas where no one is present. These reports, documented consistently over the years, suggest that Trinity Episcopal is more than just a historical or religious landmark. It is a living site where the spiritual past continues to interact with the present. Walking through Trinity Episcopal Church, one cannot help but feel a profound mix of awe and unease. The flicker of candlelight, the tolling of bells, the shadows gliding along the aisles, and the sudden chills all contribute to a sense that the church is alive in a way that goes beyond the physical. It is a space where faith, memory, and the supernatural intersect, where the devotion of those who came before continues to resonate, and where the boundary between the living and the spiritual seems remarkably thin. St. Mary's Star of the Sea in Key West, Florida, is a church steeped in history, maritime devotion, and an air of mystery. Established over a century ago, it has long served the local seafaring community, offering a place of worship for sailors, fishermen, and their families. Witnesses report phantom sailors appearing among the pews, bells tolling without a bell ringer, sudden cold spots, and even the faint scent of sea salt lingering in empty aisles. These phenomena have led many to believe that the church is haunted by spirits of those lost to the treacherous waters surrounding Key West, forever tied to the church that once offered them solace in life. Visitors to St. Mary's, Star of the Sea, often notice a unique atmosphere as soon as they enter. There is a sense of stillness, as though the air itself holds the weight of centuries of devotion and sorrow. Some describe the faint smell of sea salt mixed with the warm aroma of candle wax, an inexplicable combination that seems to appear only when the church is empty. Footsteps echo unnaturally along the wooden floors, often coinciding with the sensation that someone is following them. The subtle creaking of pews and the occasional rustle of fabric further suggests that invisible presences move quietly through the sanctuary. The church bells are among the most frequently reported paranormal features of St. Mary's Star of the Sea. Witnesses recount hearing the bells toll at unpredictable times, often in the dead of night or during quiet afternoons when no one is in the bell tower. The sound, resonant and haunting, can be heard for blocks around, echoing across the town and the nearby waters. Many believe the tolling is connected to the spirits of sailors who perished at sea, marking their passage or signaling their continued presence. The unpredictability of the ringing adds to the eerie reputation of the church and has made it a point of fascination for paranormal investigators. Shadowy figures are a common sight within the church. Visitors have reported seeing dark, indistinct shapes moving among the pews, kneeling near the altar, or gliding silently along the aisles. Some apparitions appear dressed in maritime clothing, with long coats and hats, reminiscent of 19th century sailors. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving only the sense that someone or something was present moments before. Parishioners who have witnessed these apparitions often describe them as non-threatening, almost reverential, as if they are quietly paying homage to the sacred space they once knew in life. Auditory phenomena are another recurring aspect of the church's paranormal activity. Witnesses report faint whispers, the distant creak of rigging, and the soft lapping of invisible waves, as though the sea itself has found a voice within the walls. Some have heard the muffled sounds of chanting or prayers, though the church is completely empty. Paranormal researchers have documented electronic voice phenomena, EVP, in multiple investigations, capturing faint phrases and murmurs that appear to come from nowhere. These auditory experiences, combined with visual and olfactory phenomena, create a multisensory sense of the supernatural that leaves a lasting impression on visitors. Cold spots and sudden drops in temperature are often reported along the aisles and near the altar. Visitors describe feeling an abrupt chill as they pass certain areas, sometimes accompanied by the sensation of being lightly touched by an unseen presence. These physical manifestations are believed to be the residual energy of past parishioners, particularly sailors who met tragic ends at sea, whose spirits remain connected to the church. Some individuals have reported the sensation of pressure or gentle nudges, fleeting but unmistakable, suggesting the presence of a conscious spirit nearby. The history of St. Mary's Star of the Sea provides context for its haunted reputation. Over the decades, countless sailors and maritime workers have attended services at the church, and many perished in storms or shipwrecks off the coast of Key West. Families and fellow parishioners often prayed for their safe return, creating a lasting emotional and spiritual imprint within the church. Paranormal experts suggest that the combination of devotion, tragedy, and maritime energy contributes to the lingering presence of spirits, manifesting as apparitions, unexplained sounds, cold drafts, and even sensory experiences, like the smell of sea salt. Caretakers and parishioners have shared numerous accounts of supernatural activity. Some have witnessed shadowy figures moving silently through the pews, bells tolling without human intervention, or unexplained cold drafts. Others report faint smells of the sea and wax, the rustle of fabric, or whispers that seem to come from nowhere. These consistent reports, often spanning decades, suggest that St. Mary's Star of the Sea is not only a place of worship, but also a site where the past continues to reach out to the present. Walking through St. Mary's Star of the Sea, one cannot help but feel the profound intersection of faith, history, and mystery. The flickering of candles, the tolling of bells, shadowy apparitions, and cold drafts all contribute to an atmosphere where the spiritual past remains tangibly present. It is a church where the devotion of sailors and parishioners who have passed continues to echo through the aisles, reminding visitors of the human stories intertwined with the building and the lingering presence of those who worshipped long ago. Christ Church in Orlando, Florida, stands as a striking blend of history, architecture, and the unexplained. Established over a century ago, the church has served generations of worshipers, offering solace, community, and spiritual guidance. Its stately steeples, stained glass windows, and wooden pews create an atmosphere of reverence, Yet beneath the surface lies a legacy of reported paranormal activity. Bells that toll without a bell ringer, doors that slam unexpectedly, shadowy figures kneeling at the altar, and faint whispers captured by recording devices have all contributed to Christchurch's reputation as a site of spiritual unrest. Visitors and parishioners alike often describe a sensation that the church is alive with unseen presences, some tied to events long past, others perhaps lingering from tragedies or devotion unfulfilled. Many who enter Christchurch immediately sense something unusual. The air often feels heavy, thick with the echoes of decades of worship, and even on warm days, sudden cold drafts can sweep through the aisles. Shadows seem to move at the edges of vision, and subtle sounds, footsteps, the rustle of fabric, or faint murmurs can be heard in empty sections of the sanctuary. These experiences, while often subtle, leave a lasting impression on those who witness them, creating a sense of a spiritual presence that is both tangible and mysterious. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the church's bells tolling on their own. Parishioners have recounted hearing the bells ring late at night or during quiet afternoons, when the bell tower has been securely locked and unattended. The tolling carries a haunting resonance, echoing across the surrounding streets and emphasizing the church's eerie reputation. Some interpret the bells as marking moments of spiritual significance, while others believe they reflect the presence of past parishioners or clergy who remain connected to Christchurch even after death. The unpredictability of the ringing adds an element of suspense and wonder, making it one of the church's most mysterious features. Shadowy figures are another hallmark of the church's reported hauntings. Witnesses often describe dark, indistinct shapes kneeling at the altar or moving along the aisles, appearing to participate in worship in a way that is imperceptible to the living. These figures are typically fleeting, disappearing when approached, yet their presence is unmistakable. Some apparitions are said to resemble clergy or parishioners from earlier generations, dressed in period clothing or formal worship attire. The figure's stillness and reverent postures often suggest a lingering devotion rather than malice, as though the spirits are quietly maintaining a vigil in the sacred space they once frequented in life. Auditory phenomena are a consistent feature of Christchurch's paranormal activity. Visitors report faint whispers, the echo of footsteps, and the soft creaking of doors that appear to open and close without human intervention. In some instances, recording devices used by paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, AVP, including whispered prayers, fragments of hymns, and murmurs that seem to emanate from empty sections of the church. These sounds, combined with visual and tactile experiences, create a layered impression of the supernatural, leaving a strong sense that the spiritual and physical worlds intersect within the church's walls. Cold drafts and sudden drops in temperature are also commonly reported. Parishioners walking down the aisles or standing near the altar sometimes feel abrupt chills, often accompanied by the sensation of being lightly touched or brushed by an unseen presence. The sudden temperature shifts reinforce the feeling that Christchurch is a space where unseen forces are at work, subtly interacting with the living. The history of Christchurch helps explain its reputation for hauntings. Over decades, the church has witnessed the lives of countless congregants, from joyful ceremonies to mourning and loss. Many parishioners passed away suddenly, leaving behind memories and attachments that, according to paranormal researchers, could contribute to lingering spirits. Tales of shadowy figures, unexplained sounds, and mysterious movements may be echoes of those who continue their devotion beyond life. Bound to the sacred space by faith, memory, and emotion, caretakers and longtime parishioners have shared numerous personal experiences. Some have seen shadowy figures kneeling silently at the altar, while others have felt sudden cold drafts or heard doors slam without cause. Bells toll unexpectedly, and whispers or faint footsteps can be detected in empty areas. These consistent reports, often spanning decades, suggest that Christchurch is more than just a historical or spiritual landmark. It is a place where the past continues to interact with the present, leaving an impression of the unseen that is impossible to ignore. Walking through Christ Church, one cannot help but feel a profound mix of awe, reverence, and unease. The flicker of candles, the distant tolling of bells, shadowy figures moving through the pews, and the sudden chills all contribute to a sense that the church is alive in a way that transcends the physical. It is a space where devotion, memory, and the unexplained coexist, creating an atmosphere that is both comforting and haunting. Holy Trinity Church in West Palm Beach, Florida, is a historic sanctuary that combines spiritual reverence with an air of mystery. Built over a century ago, the church has served generations of worshipers, hosting baptisms, weddings, funerals, and regular services. Its Gothic-inspired architecture, tall arched windows, and ornate wooden pews create an atmosphere of solemnity and devotion. Yet, beneath its serene appearance, Holy Trinity Church has earned a reputation for paranormal activity. Bells that toll at night with no one in the tower, lights that flicker inexplicably, shadowy figures walking the aisles, and sudden cold spots are all part of the church's lore. Parishioners, visitors, and paranormal investigators alike have reported experiences that suggest the presence of spirits who remain tied to the church long after their earthly lives have ended. Visitors to Holy Trinity Church often describe a unique sensation upon entering. The air seems heavy, as though imbued with centuries of devotion and sorrow. Some experience sudden cold drafts, appearing without warning in the middle of the nave or near the altar. These chills often accompany the feeling of being observed, a subtle awareness that unseen presences are moving silently through the sanctuary. It is a sensation that is difficult to describe, a mix of awe, reverence, and unease, leaving an impression that lingers long after leaving the church. The church's bells are among its most famous paranormal features. Witnesses recount hearing the bells toll at night, sometimes during storms or quiet evenings. Despite the bell tower being securely locked and unoccupied, the tolling carries a haunting resonance, echoing through the surrounding streets and giving the impression of a presence marking the hours or signaling the unseen. Many believe these tolls are tied to spirits of past clergy or congregants, continuing to mark significant moments, even in death. The unpredictability and persistence of the bell's sound have made it a defining element of the church's supernatural reputation. Shadowy figures are another common occurrence reported at Holy Trinity Church. Visitors and parishioners alike describe fleeting silhouettes moving along the pews or gliding silently down the aisles. Some figures are seen kneeling at the altar, performing acts of devotion that no living person witnesses. These apparitions often vanish when approached, leaving behind only a lingering sense of presence. Witnesses frequently report that these figures appear dressed in period clothing, suggesting they may be the spirits of worshipers from generations past, still returning to honor the sacred space they cherished in life. Flickering lights and unexplained electrical disturbances further enhance the church's reputation for supernatural activity. Lights have been observed dimming or brightening without reason, sometimes coinciding with the movement of shadowy figures or the sudden appearance of cold spots. Candles placed on altars or near windows have been known to extinguish themselves, even in the absence of drafts. Paranormal researchers suggest these events may be linked to residual energy, perhaps created by the intensity of emotions, devotion, and grief experienced in the church over the decades. Auditory phenomena are frequently reported by those who enter the church after hours. Faint whispers, the creaking of wooden floors, and distant footsteps are commonly described. Some paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, on recording devices, including fragments of prayers, murmured names, or indistinct murmurs that seem to emanate from empty sections of the church. These sounds, coupled with visual and physical experiences, create a multi-sensory sense of the supernatural, reinforcing the perception that Holy Trinity Church is a place where the spiritual world intersects with the physical one. The history of Holy Trinity Church provides context for its unusual activity. Over the years, the church has seen countless weddings, funerals, and ceremonies of devotion, leaving behind emotional and spiritual imprints on its walls and floors. Many parishioners passed away suddenly or tragically, and it is believed that the intensity of their devotion and grief may have created lingering spiritual energy. These lingering presences are thought to be responsible for many of the experiences reported by visitors, from shadowy figures and cold spots to flickering lights and the tolling of bells. Longtime staff and caretakers have shared numerous accounts of paranormal occurrences. Some have seen shadowy figures kneeling in prayer or moving silently through the pews, while others have felt sudden cold drafts or noticed lights flicking on and off without explanation. Bells have tolled at odd hours, and faint whispers can sometimes be heard echoing through the empty sanctuary. These repeated experiences, often spanning decades, suggest that Holy Trinity Church is more than a historical or spiritual landmark. It is a space where the past continues to interact with the present. Walking through Holy Trinity Church, visitors often feel a profound mix of reverence and unease. The flicker of candles, the tolling of bells, the movement of shadowy figures, and the sudden chills all contribute to a sense that the church is alive in a way that transcends the physical. It is a place where faith and the unexplained coexist, where the devotion of past congregants continues to echo through the aisles. St. Augustine Episcopal Church in Clearwater, Florida, is a historic sanctuary that combines spiritual reverence with an air of mystery. Built over a century ago, the church has been a cornerstone of the local community, hosting baptisms, weddings, funerals, and regular services for generations. Its grand architecture, stained glass windows, and polished wooden pews reflect both devotion and history. Yet beneath its serene exterior, St. Augustine Episcopal has earned a reputation for paranormal activity. Bells that ring unexpectedly, flickering lights, shadowy figures near the altar, and faint whispers echoing through empty hallways have all been reported, creating a lasting impression of the supernatural. Parishioners, visitors, and paranormal investigators alike have described experiences that suggest a lingering presence of spirits who remain tied to the church long after their earthly lives have ended. Many who enter St. Augustine Episcopal immediately notice an unusual atmosphere. The air feels heavy, charged with the devotion and memories of countless worshippers who have passed through its doors. Cold drafts often appear without warning, moving along the aisles or near the altar. Visitors frequently report the sensation of being watched, a subtle awareness of unseen presences gliding silently through the sanctuary. These experiences create a mix of awe, reverence, and unease, leaving a deep impression that persists long after leaving the church. The church's bells are among its most mysterious features. Witnesses recount hearing them toll unexpectedly, sometimes in the dead of night or during quiet afternoons. Even though the bell tower is securely locked and unattended, the sound resonates across the surrounding streets, carrying a haunting tone that seems both mournful and commanding. Many believe the tolling is connected to spirits of past clergy or parishioners, signaling their continued presence or marking moments of significance. The unpredictability of the bells has become a defining characteristic of the church's paranormal reputation, drawing the curiosity of both locals and paranormal researchers. Shadowy figures are another frequent occurrence. Visitors and parishioners have described fleeting shapes moving along the pews or kneeling silently near the altar. These apparitions often vanish when approached, leaving behind a lingering sense of presence. Witnesses report that some figures appear dressed in period clothing, suggesting they may be the spirits of worshippers from generations past. Their quiet devotion implies reverence rather than malevolence, as though the spirits are quietly continuing practices of worship in a sacred space they once cherished. Lights flickering without explanation are also commonly reported. Visitors have seen chandeliers dim or brighten suddenly, and lamps or candles have been known to extinguish themselves, sometimes coinciding with other paranormal events like the appearance of shadowy figures or the sensation of cold spots. Paranormal experts suggest that these phenomena may result from residual energy created by the intense emotions of devotion, grief, or prayer experienced in the church over the decades. Auditory phenomena contribute significantly to the church's haunted reputation. Faint whispers, soft footsteps, and the subtle creaking of floors have been reported in areas long unoccupied. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, on recording devices, picking up fragments of prayers, murmured names, or indistinct voices that seem to come from empty sections of the church. These sounds, combined with visual and tactile experiences, reinforce the perception that St. Augustine Episcopal is a place where the spiritual and physical realms intersect. The history of St. Augustine Episcopal provides context for its paranormal activity. Over the years, the church has witnessed countless joyous and tragic events, baptisms, funerals, and ceremonies of devotion. Many parishioners passed away suddenly or tragically, and the intensity of their faith and emotions may have left lingering spiritual energy. These residual presences are thought to manifest as shadowy figures, cold drafts, flickering lights, and the ringing of bells, all of which have been consistently reported over decades. Longtime staff and caretakers have shared numerous personal experiences. Some have seen ghostly figures kneeling silently in prayer or moving along the pews. Others have felt sudden cold drafts, experienced flickering lights, or heard bells tolling with no explanation. Faint whispers and the sound of footsteps in empty hallways are also common. These repeated reports suggest that the church is more than a historical or spiritual landmark. It is a place where the past continues to interact with the present. Walking through St. Augustine Episcopal Church, visitors often feel a mixture of reverence and unease. The flickering lights, the tolling of bells, the movement of shadowy figures, and the sudden chills all contribute to the sense that the church is alive in a way that transcends the physical. It is a space where faith and the unexplained coexist, and the devotion of past congregants continues to resonate long after their earthly lives have ended. St. Andrew's Catholic Church in Miami, Florida, is a historic place of worship that has long been associated with mysterious and unexplained occurrences. Established decades ago, the church has been a spiritual anchor for generations, hosting mass, baptisms, weddings, and funerals. Its high ceilings, ornate stained glass windows, and polished wooden pews create a reverent atmosphere for the faithful. But alongside its sacred presence lies a reputation for paranormal activity. Bells toll unexpectedly during storms. Shadowy figures are seen moving silently among the pews. Cold drafts sweep through empty corridors, and parishioners report an unsettling feeling of being watched, even in broad daylight. These phenomena have intrigued locals and paranormal investigators alike, suggesting that St. Andrews is more than just a historical church, is a place where the spiritual and physical worlds intersect. Visitors to St. Andrews often note a peculiar sensation upon entering the church. The air carries a weight, thick with decades of devotion, grief, and silent prayers. Many report sudden chills that seem to move unpredictably through the sanctuary, sometimes brushing past the pews or drifting near the altar. The sensation of being observed is a common experience. It is subtle but persistent, a feeling that unseen eyes are watching, silently observing those who enter the sacred space. This presence is neither overtly threatening nor friendly, yet is an intangible awareness that leaves visitors uneasy yet strangely compelled to stay and witness the mysteries of the church. The church bells are one of the most frequently reported paranormal features. Parishioners and visitors alike have heard them toll during heavy storms or quiet nights when no one is present in the tower. The sound echoes across the surrounding streets and carries a haunting resonance, as if calling attention to an unseen presence. Some believe that these tolls mark significant moments, perhaps the lingering memory of clergy or worshipers who dedicated their lives to the church. Others suggest that the bells signal the restless spirits of the departed, a reminder that devotion and faith can extend beyond mortal life. Shadowy figures are another common occurrence at St. Andrews. Witnesses describe fleeting silhouettes gliding along the aisles or appearing near the pews, often vanishing when approached. Some of these apparitions appear kneeling in prayer, performing silent rituals that mirror the acts of worship practiced for generations. Visitors sometimes report seeing shapes in robes or garments reminiscent of earlier times, suggesting the presence of parishioners or clergy from decades past. These figures are generally described as calm and reverent rather than threatening, as though their purpose is to continue devotion even after death. In addition to visual phenomena, lights in the church have been known to flicker or dim without explanation. Chandeliers and lamps have been observed brightening suddenly, or candles extinguishing themselves without the presence of wind. These electrical anomalies often coincide with other paranormal activity, such as cold drafts or the appearance of shadowy figures, reinforcing the sense that unseen forces are at work. Paranormal researchers have speculated that these disturbances could be caused by residual emotional echoes of devotion, grief, or fervent prayer left behind by those who worshipped within the church over the years. Auditory phenomena further contribute to St. Andrew's reputation. Visitors have reported faint whispers, the subtle creaking of floors, or the distant sound of footsteps in corridors that have been empty for decades. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, that include indistinct murmurs, fragments of prayers, and whispered names. These sounds, combined with visual and tactile experiences, create a multisensory impression of the supernatural, suggesting that the church is a space where spiritual energy continues to manifest in observable ways. The history of St. Andrew's provides context for its paranormal activity. Over the decades, the church has been a site of joyous celebrations, solemn funerals, and moments of personal devotion. Many parishioners died suddenly or tragically, leaving behind emotional and spiritual imprints within the walls and floors of the church. These residual energies are believed to contribute to the apparitions, cold spots, flickering lights, and ringing bells that are reported with regularity. The accumulation of devotion, grief, and reverence creates an environment where the living and the spiritual past intersect in tangible ways. Staff and longtime parishioners have shared countless personal experiences with these phenomena. Shadowy figures kneeling in prayer, sudden cold drafts, flickering lights, and the tolling of bells have all been observed. Visitors often sense that someone unseen is present, a feeling that persists even during busy daytime services. These consistent reports, spanning decades, suggest that St. Andrew's is not only a place of faith but also a repository for lingering spiritual energy. Walking through St. Andrew's Catholic Church, visitors often experience a profound mixture of awe, reverence, and unease. The flicker of candlelight, the tolling of bells, the silent movement of shadowy figures, and sudden cold drafts create an impression that the church is alive in a way that transcends the physical. It is a space where devotion, history, and mystery coexist, and where the faith of past congregants continues to echo through the walls long after their earthly lives ended. The Church of the Redeemer in Sarasota, Florida, stands as both a place of worship and a repository of mystery. Established many decades ago, the church has served its congregation through baptisms, weddings, funerals, and countless services, creating an enduring legacy of devotion. Its Gothic-style architecture, high ceilings, and ornate wooden pews lend the building a solemn and reverent atmosphere. Yet beyond the spiritual and historical significance, the Church of the Redeemer has earned a reputation for paranormal activity that continues to intrigue locals, parishioners, and paranormal investigators alike. Bells that ring with no one present, flickering lights, ghostly figures moving through the nave, and faint whispers captured on recording devices all contribute to the church's haunted reputation. Visitors entering the Church of the Redeemer often describe a palpable shift in atmosphere, a mixture of solemnity and unease. The air seems heavy, imbued with decades of prayer, devotion, grief, and worship. Cold drafts sweep unpredictably through the nave, sometimes brushing past pews or near the altar, leaving visitors shivering even on warm Sarasota evenings. Many report the sensation of being observed, a subtle awareness that unseen presences glide silently through the sanctuary. It is an unsettling but compelling experience, as if the spirits of past worshippers remain tied to the church, silently observing those who now occupy its sacred spaces. The church bells are among the most frequently reported paranormal phenomena. Witnesses recount hearing the bells toll during quiet afternoons or stormy nights when the bell tower is empty and locked. The sound resonates through the surrounding streets, deep and haunting, as if echoing the presence of souls who once attended services or clergy who faithfully served the church. Some believe that these tolls mark significant spiritual moments, while others suggest that restless spirits continue to call attention to the sacred space, their voices made manifest through the ringing bells. The unpredictability of the bell's sound reinforces the sense that the church is alive with unseen activity. People have described fleeting silhouettes moving along the pews or crossing the nave, often vanishing when approached. In some cases, the figures appear kneeling in prayer near the altar, performing silent acts of devotion. Many witnesses have noted that these apparitions appear dressed in older garments, reminiscent of parishioners or clergy from decades past. Their behavior is generally respectful, as though their purpose is not to frighten but to continue their spiritual practices even after death. Flickering lights add another layer of mystery. Chandeliers dim or brighten seemingly at random, and candles have been observed extinguishing themselves without the presence of wind. These electrical anomalies often coincide with other supernatural events, such as shadowy figures or cold drafts, reinforcing the sense that unseen forces are present. Paranormal researchers suggest that these occurrences may be caused by residual energy created by intense emotions and devotion over the decades. The repeated manifestation of these phenomena indicates that the church is more than just a historical or religious site. It is a space where spiritual energy lingers and sometimes becomes visible or audible to the living. Auditory experiences further enhance the church's haunted reputation. Visitors have reported faint whispers drifting through the hallways, the soft creak of wooden floors, and distant, indistinct footsteps in sections of the church that have been empty for years. Paranormal investigators have recorded electronic voice phenomena, AVP, capturing fragments of prayer, whispered names, or faint chants that seem to originate from empty areas of the church. These auditory events, combined with visual and physical phenomena, create a multi-sensory experience that convinces many that the Church of the Redeemer is a site where the spiritual world intersects with the physical one. The history of the Church of the Redeemer helps explain its paranormal activity. Over the decades, it has witnessed countless joyous and sorrowful moments, weddings, baptisms, funerals, and times of personal devotion. Many parishioners and clergy passed away suddenly or tragically, leaving emotional and spiritual imprints on the walls and floors of the church. These residual energies are believed to manifest as ghostly figures, cold spots, flickering lights, and unexplained bell tolls. The accumulation of grief, devotion, and reverence has created an environment in which the past continues to interact with the present, and where spirits seem to linger long after their earthly lives have ended. Staff and longtime parishioners frequently share personal experiences with these phenomena. Shadowy figures kneeling in prayer, unexplained cold drafts, flickering lights, and the tolling of bells are commonly reported. Visitors often sense an unseen presence, a subtle awareness that they are not alone, even during busy daytime services. These repeated experiences suggest that the Church of the Redeemer is more than a historical or spiritual landmark. It is a living repository for the lingering spiritual energy of those who once worshipped there. Walking through the Church of the Redeemer, visitors are struck by the mixture of awe, reverence, and unease. The flicker of candles, the tolling of bells, the silent movement of shadowy figures, and sudden chills create the impression that the church is alive in a way that transcends the physical. It is a space where faith, history, and the unexplained coexist, where the devotion of past congregants continues to echo through the nave long after their earthly lives have ended. St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Tampa, Florida, is a historic landmark with a reputation that extends far beyond its spiritual significance. Built over a century ago, the church has served generations of parishioners, hosting baptisms, weddings, funerals, and countless Sunday services. Its Gothic-inspired architecture, tall stained glass windows, and carved wooden pews give the sanctuary an atmosphere of solemn reverence. Yet beneath its serene exterior, St. Paul's has long been associated with unexplained occurrences that have intrigued parishioners, visitors, and paranormal researchers alike. Bells ringing without anyone in the tower, shadowy figures moving among the pews, doors opening and closing of their own accord, and sudden cold spots are among the phenomena reported, creating an air of mystery that has persisted for decades. Visitors entering St. Paul's often immediately sense something unusual. The air inside the sanctuary feels heavy, charged with a lingering energy that many describe as both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Cold drafts seem to appear without warning, often brushing along the aisles, around pews, or near the altar. The temperature can drop sharply in certain areas, leaving visitors shivering even on warm Florida days. Many report a subtle sensation of being watched, an awareness of unseen presences moving silently through the nave. These experiences suggest that St. Paul's is more than a historical and spiritual space. It is a place where past and present seem to converge, where the echoes of those who worshipped there long ago still linger. The church bells are perhaps the most frequently reported phenomenon. Witnesses recount hearing them toll at odd hours, often during quiet nights or storms, even though the bell tower is locked and unattended. The sound is deep, resonant, and haunting, carrying across the surrounding streets and creating an eerie sense of anticipation. Some believe that the tolling marks spiritual events, while others suggest that the church is inhabited by spirits of former clergy or devoted parishioners, their presence manifesting through the ringing of the bells. Regardless of the explanation, the unpredictable chimes have become a hallmark of the church's paranormal reputation. Shadowy figures are also a common occurrence at St. Paul's. Visitors and staff alike have described fleeting silhouettes gliding down the aisles or appearing near the altar. These apparitions are often seen kneeling in silent prayer or moving along the pews as if participating in a service invisible to the living. Many have noted that the figures seem to be dressed in older garments, reminiscent of clergy or parishioners from decades past. Their presence is typically calm and reverent, suggesting that they are not malevolent spirits, but rather entities tied to the sacred rituals and practices of the church. Flickering lights and unexplained electrical disturbances add another layer to the church's haunting. Chandeliers and lamps have been observed dimming or brightening without any apparent cause, while candles occasionally extinguish themselves, despite the absence of wind. These phenomena often occur simultaneously with other paranormal activity, such as the appearance of shadowy figures or sudden cold drafts. Paranormal researchers suggest that these disturbances may be residual energy left behind by intense emotions, devotion, or grief experienced in the church over the decades. The recurring nature of these events reinforces the idea that St. Paul's is not only a historical site, but also a space where spiritual energy manifests in tangible ways. Auditory experiences contribute significantly to the church's eerie reputation. Visitors frequently report hearing faint whispers, soft footsteps, or the creaking of floors in areas that have long been empty. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, recording fragments of prayer, indistinct names, or murmured voices that seem to come from the walls themselves. These auditory occurrences, combined with visual and tactile experiences, create a compelling impression that St. Paul's is a space where the spiritual and physical realms intersect. The church's long history helps explain its paranormal activity. Over the decades, St. Paul's has been the site of countless personal and communal moments, joyous celebrations, solemn ceremonies, and times of quiet reflection. Many parishioners and clergy passed away suddenly or tragically, leaving emotional imprints within the church walls and floors. These residual energies are thought to manifest as shadowy figures, flickering lights, cold spots, and ringing bells. The accumulation of devotion, grief, and reverence over generations has created an environment where the past continues to interact with the present, allowing spirits to linger long after their earthly lives have ended. Staff members and longtime parishioners often share first-hand accounts of the church's paranormal phenomena. Shadowy figures kneeling in prayer, doors opening without explanation, sudden cold drafts, and unexplained bell tolling are all commonly reported. Visitors frequently feel a subtle but persistent awareness of being observed, even during busy daytime services. These experiences, repeated across decades, suggest that St. Paul's Episcopal Church is more than a sacred space. It is a living repository of lingering spiritual energy. Walking through St. Paul's, one cannot help but notice the interplay of reverence and unease. The flicker of candlelight, the tolling of bells, the silent movement of shadowy figures, and sudden drops in temperature combine to create an atmosphere in which the supernatural feels both present and plausible. It is a space where history, faith, and the unexplained coexist, and where the devotion of past congregants continues to echo through time. Holy Name of Jesus Church in Jacksonville, Florida, is a place of worship that has long captivated parishioners, not only for its spiritual significance, but also for its reputation for paranormal activity. Established decades ago, the church has stood as a beacon for the local community, hosting countless masses, weddings, baptisms, and funerals. Its soaring ceilings, stained glass windows, and intricately carved pews create a solemn and reverent atmosphere. Yet beyond its serene exterior, Holy Name of Jesus harbors stories of unexplained occurrences that continue to intrigue visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators. Bells that toll with no apparent human source, shadowy figures near the altar, and candles lighting or extinguishing themselves are among the phenomena frequently reported, painting a picture of a church where the spiritual and supernatural intersect. Upon entering the church, many visitors immediately sense an unusual atmosphere. There is a heaviness in the air, a subtle weight that presses on the spirit and heightens awareness of one's surroundings. Cold drafts sweep through the nave unexpectedly, brushing against pews, the altar, or the corners of the building, often leaving a chill, even during warm evenings. Many parishioners report an uncanny feeling of being watched, a presence that seems to move silently through the sanctuary. These sensations suggest that Holy Name of Jesus is more than a sacred space. It is a site where the energies of past worshipers linger, echoing through the physical and spiritual realms alike. The church's bells are among the most frequently reported sources of paranormal activity. Witnesses recount hearing them toll late at night when the bell tower is locked and unattended. The sound is deep and resonant, traveling across the surrounding streets and creating a haunting, almost solemn presence. Some believe the bell tolls mark spiritual events or signal the presence of spirits tied to the church as history. Others suggest that the ringing is a way for unseen entities to communicate with the living, manifesting their devotion through sound. Regardless of the explanation, the unpredictable tolling of the bells has become a defining feature of the church's paranormal reputation, drawing curious visitors and investigators alike. Shadowy figures near the altar are another hallmark of Holy Name of Jesus hauntings. Witnesses have reported fleeting silhouettes that appear to kneel in prayer, move along the altar, or silently cross the nave. These apparitions often seem to wear older garments, reminiscent of clergy or parishioners from earlier generations. Many who have seen these figures describe a sense of calm and reverence, as if they are witnesses to a sacred ritual frozen in time. Candles and lights within the church frequently behave in unexplained ways. Candles have been seen lighting themselves, flickering erratically, or extinguishing with no apparent cause. Chandeliers and lamps sometimes dim or brighten without human intervention, often coinciding with other paranormal events. Researchers suggest that these phenomena may be manifestations of residual energy, the emotional and spiritual imprints left behind by decades of prayer, grief, and devotion. The repetition of these occurrences underscores the notion that Holy Name of Jesus is a place where the past continuously intersects with the present. Auditory experiences further enhance the church's eerie reputation. Parishioners and visitors alike report hearing faint whispers drifting through empty hallways, soft footsteps along wooden floors, and the rustle of robes in areas long abandoned. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, that include snippets of prayer, murmured names, or whispered phrases, seemingly coming from nowhere. These sounds often occur in conjunction with visual and tactile experiences, creating a multisensory impression that the church is alive with unseen activity. The history of Holy Name of Jesus helps explain its paranormal energy. Over the decades, it has witnessed countless personal and communal moments, joyous celebrations, solemn rites, and periods of quiet reflection. Many parishioners and clergy passed away unexpectedly or tragically, leaving emotional and spiritual imprints within the church. It is these imprints that are believed to manifest as ghostly figures, cold spots, flickering candles, and tolling bells. The accumulated devotion, grief, and reverence of generations have transformed the church into a space where spiritual energy persists, allowing the past to remain present and accessible. Staff and longtime parishioners often share first-hand experiences with the church's supernatural activity. Shadowy figures kneeling in prayer, candles lighting themselves, and the tolling of bells in the absence of human presence are frequently reported. Visitors sometimes feel an invisible weight or a subtle pressure in the air, as though unseen eyes are observing. These repeated accounts suggest that Holy Name of Jesus Church is more than a historical or religious landmark. It is a living archive of lingering spiritual energy. Walking through the nave, one cannot help but notice the interplay of reverence and unease. Flickering candles, the toll of distant bells, silent figures at the altar, and cold drafts converge to create an atmosphere in which the supernatural feels tangible. The church offers more than a place for worship. It is a space where history, devotion, and the unexplained coexist, and where the spirits of past congregants continue their silent acts of faith. St. John the Evangelist Church in Boca Raton, Florida, stands as a historic and spiritual landmark, yet it carries a reputation that extends beyond its sacred role. Built decades ago, the church has long served its parishioners with Sunday services, weddings, baptisms, and funerals, and its soaring architecture, stained glass windows, and polished wooden pews create an atmosphere of solemn reverence. However, beneath its serene exterior lies a history of unexplained phenomena that has captivated both visitors and paranormal enthusiasts. Bells that ring when no one is present, shadowy figures kneeling silently, unpredictable cold drafts, and faint whispers in the quiet of the night all contribute to the church's haunting reputation. Visitors often notice something unusual upon entering the church. The air feels heavy and charged with energy, as if unseen presences are observing. Cold drafts move unpredictably through the nave, rushing along pews, around the altar, or down the aisles, leaving a chill that contrasts sharply with Florida's warm climate. Many parishioners report a sensation of being watched or followed by something unseen, an awareness that the building is not entirely empty. These experiences suggest that St. John the Evangelist is a space where spiritual energy lingers, allowing the past to coexist with the present in subtle, often unsettling ways. The church's bells are among the most frequently reported manifestations of paranormal activity. Witnesses recount hearing them toll in the dead of night when the building is locked and no one is in the bell tower. The sound is deep, resonant, and haunting, echoing across the surrounding streets. Some believe these tolls mark spiritual events or communicate messages from the unseen, while others feel they are echoes of former clergy or devoted parishioners still tending to their sacred duties from beyond the grave. Regardless of the source, the unpredictable ringing of the bells has become a defining feature of the church's haunting, drawing both curious visitors and investigators. Shadowy figures are another hallmark of St. John the Evangelist's paranormal activity. Witnesses frequently report seeing dark, indistinct shapes kneeling silently in the pews or moving near the altar. These apparitions often appear to be dressed in older clothing, reminiscent of parishioners or clergy from earlier generations. Many observers describe a sense of reverence or calm when encountering these figures, suggesting that they may be residual echoes of devotion rather than spirits with unfinished business. Candles and lights in the church also behave in mysterious ways. Flames sometimes flicker or extinguish themselves without explanation, while chandeliers and lamps may dim or brighten unexpectedly. These occurrences often coincide with other paranormal events, such as the appearance of shadowy figures or sudden cold spots. Paranormal researchers speculate that these phenomena could be residual energy imprinted within the church by decades of intense emotion, grief, and devotion. The repeated nature of these events reinforces the sense that St. John the Evangelist is not only a sacred place, but also a living repository of spiritual energy that continues to manifest in tangible ways. Auditory phenomena further enhance the church's haunting reputation. Visitors and staff report hearing faint whispers drifting through empty aisles, the soft shuffle of footsteps along wooden floors, and the subtle rustle of robes or garments in spaces long deserted. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, late at night, including fragments of prayer, murmured names, and whispered phrases that seem to emanate from nowhere. These sounds, combined with visual and tactile experiences, create an immersive impression of a place where the spiritual realm is always present, quietly interacting with the living. The church's long history helps explain the intensity of its paranormal activity. Over the decades, St. John the Evangelist has been the site of countless personal and communal experiences, joyful ceremonies, solemn rites, moments of reflection, and profound loss. Many parishioners and clergy have passed away under sudden or tragic circumstances, leaving emotional and spiritual imprints on the building. These imprints are believed to manifest as ghostly figures, unpredictable cold spots, flickering candles, and tolling bells. The collective devotion and grief of generations have imbued the church with an energy that lingers long after the lives of its former congregants have ended. Staff members and longtime parishioners often share first-hand accounts of the church's supernatural phenomena, shadowy figures kneeling in silent prayer, candles igniting and extinguishing without cause, bells tolling in the absence of any human presence, and sudden cold drafts are among the most commonly reported experiences. Visitors frequently describe an intangible weight or presence that makes them acutely aware of the history and devotion contained within the building. These recurring experiences suggest that St. John the Evangelist is more than just a place of worship. It is a living archive of lingering spiritual energy. Walking through the church, one cannot help but notice the tension between reverence and unease. The flicker of candlelight, the tolling of distant bells, the sudden chill of cold drafts, and the silent presence of shadowy figures all contribute to an atmosphere where the spiritual and supernatural feel palpably intertwined. The church offers more than religious services, is a space where history, devotion, and the unexplained coexist, and where the spirits of former parishioners continue to make themselves felt in subtle, mysterious ways. Christ the King Church in Jacksonville, Florida, is widely recognized as a place of spiritual devotion, yet it carries a reputation that extends into the realm of the unexplained. With its tall steeples, arched windows, and serene sanctuary, the church has long served its parishioners with regular services, weddings, baptisms, and memorials. Visitors often remark on the sense of solemnity and reverence that fills the air, but for some, the church also evokes a subtle unease. Bells toll with no human intervention, lights flicker unexpectedly, shadowy figures traverse the aisles, and there are reports of invisible presences kneeling beside individuals during moments of quiet prayer. These phenomena have made Christ the King a focal point for both local curiosity and paranormal investigation, blurring the line between devotion and mystery. Upon entering the church, many visitors immediately sense a distinct atmosphere. The air seems charged, heavy with energy, and there is often a noticeable drop in temperature in certain areas of the sanctuary. Cold drafts sweep unpredictably down the aisles or around the altar, brushing past pews or lingering near corners, leaving a chill that contrasts sharply with Jacksonville's warm climate. Many parishioners report a subtle but persistent feeling of being watched, as if unseen eyes are following their movements. Some describe an odd sensation of weight beside them, like an invisible presence kneeling during silent moments of prayer. The effect is both disconcerting and strangely reverent, suggesting that the spirits inhabiting Christ, the King, are tied to the faith and rituals of the church rather than malevolence. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves the church bells. Parishioners and visitors alike recount hearing the bells toll late at night when no one is present in the tower. The sound is deep and resonant, carrying across the surrounding streets, and often occurs at times when the church is locked and empty. Some believe that tolling serves as a form of spiritual communication, marking significant events or connecting the living with the lingering presence of former clergy and parishioners. Others speculate that these tolls are residual echoes left behind by decades of worship and devotion. Whatever the cause, the unpredictable ringing of the bells has become a defining characteristic of Christ the King's paranormal reputation, drawing visitors, investigators, and curiosity seekers alike. Shadowy figures are another common occurrence. Witnesses frequently report seeing dark, indistinct shapes moving along the aisles, kneeling in the pews, or passing near the altar. These apparitions often appear to wear older attire, reminiscent of previous generations of clergy or parishioners. Their movements are deliberate, sometimes slow and measured, suggesting acts of prayer or devotion rather than attempts to frighten. Many visitors describe a sense of calm or reverence when encountering these figures, indicating that the spirits may be replaying familiar rituals from the past. Locked in an eternal moment of worship. Lighting and candle phenomena add to the church's mysterious reputation. Candles often flicker or extinguish themselves without explanation, while chandeliers or lamps may brighten or dim unpredictably. These events often coincide with the appearance of shadowy figures or other manifestations, creating a multi-sensory experience of unexplained activity. Paranormal investigators suggest that these occurrences may be a form of residual energy, imprinted on the church by decades of prayer, joy, grief, and devotion. The consistent repetition of these events indicates that Christ, the King, is a space where the spiritual past continues to interact with the present. Auditory experiences further reinforce the sense of otherworldly activity within the church. Visitors report faint whispers drifting through the aisles, footsteps on wooden floors when no one is present, and soft rustling sounds that suggest movement of garments or robes. Paranormal investigators have recorded electronic voice phenomena, EVP, late at night, capturing fragments of prayer, names spoken softly, or whispered phrases that seem to emerge from nowhere. Often, these sounds coincide with visual or tactile experiences, creating the impression of a church where the spiritual and physical realms intersect continuously. The history of Christ the King Church provides context for these hauntings. Over decades, the church has witnessed countless significant moments, births, marriages, deaths, and moments of private reflection. Many parishioners and clergy passed away unexpectedly or under tragic circumstances, leaving emotional and spiritual imprints that appear to linger within the building. These imprints are believed to manifest as shadowy figures, unexplained cold spots, flickering lights, and the tolling of bells. The church, therefore, functions as a living archive of devotion and memory, where the energy of past worshipers continues to shape the environment. Staff members and longtime parishioners often recount experiences of the church's paranormal activity. Shadowy figures kneeling in prayer, unexplained candle movements, and the feeling of an invisible presence nearby are frequent reports. Visitors have described sudden chills, a sense of being observed, and the occasional sound of distant bells tolling with no apparent source. These repeated experiences suggest that Christ, the King, is more than a building, yet is a repository of spiritual energy, where the devotion and presence of past worshipers persist long after their earthly lives have ended. Walking through the church, one cannot help but notice the tension between reverence and unease. The flicker of candles, the tolling of unseen bells, the sudden chill of cold drafts, and the quiet movement of shadowy figures create an atmosphere where the sacred and the mysterious coexist. Christ the King offers more than spiritual services. It is a space where the faith of past generations lingers, where worship and the unexplained are intertwined, and where visitors may encounter the echoes of devotion that refuse to fade. Sacred Heart Church in Miami, Florida, is a historic and spiritual landmark that has drawn both devoted parishioners and curious visitors for decades. With its soaring ceilings, stained glass windows, and meticulously maintained wooden pews, the church creates an atmosphere of reverence and calm during services. Yet beneath its serene appearance lies a history of unexplained activity that has captured the attention of locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Bells toll without human intervention, ghostly figures appear near the altar, cold drafts sweep through empty corridors, and whispers echo faintly through the hallways, giving the impression that the church itself retains the memory of those who have passed. These phenomena contribute to a haunting presence that permeates the building, making Sacred Heart not only a place of worship, but also a repository of lingering spiritual energy. Visitors often describe an immediate sense of unease upon entering the church. The air feels charged, heavy with an unseen presence, and certain areas of the sanctuary are noticeably colder than others. Cold drafts move unpredictably along the aisles, near the altar, and around the pews, brushing against those walking through the nave. Parishioners and visitors alike report feeling watched, as if unseen eyes are tracking their movements. And some even sense an invisible presence kneeling beside them during quiet moments of reflection. These experiences suggest that the church is more than a structure of stone and wood. It is a space where the energy of past worshipers and clergy continues to linger, manifesting in ways that are tangible and sometimes unsettling. The tolling of the church bells is among the most frequently reported paranormal phenomena at Sacred Heart. Witnesses recount hearing the bells ring late at night when the building is empty and the bell tower is unoccupied. The deep, resonant sounds echo across the surrounding streets, startling residents and adding an eerie quality to the otherwise quiet neighborhood. Some believe that the bells mark spiritual events or serve as a communication from the unseen, while others suggest they are residual echoes of decades of devotion and worship. Regardless of interpretation, the unexplained ringing reinforces the church's reputation as a place where the spiritual and supernatural intersect. Shadowy figures are another hallmark of Sacred Heart's paranormal activity. These apparitions often appear to be dressed in older styles of clerical or parish clothing, suggesting that they may be echoes of former clergy members or congregants. Their movements are deliberate and prayerful, rarely causing fear, but instead evoking a sense of reverence. Witnesses have described moments when these figures vanish suddenly, leaving behind a lingering impression of devotion or presence that cannot be explained by the living. Lighting and candle phenomena add further to the church's mysterious reputation. Candles occasionally flicker or extinguish themselves without any apparent cause, while light fixtures may dim or brighten unexpectedly. These occurrences often coincide with other manifestations, such as shadowy figures or cold spots, creating an immersive experience for those present. Paranormal investigators speculate that these events may be the result of residual energy imprinted on the building by centuries of emotional and spiritual activity. The repetition of these phenomena over time suggests that Sacred Heart is a place where the past continues to influence the present, often in subtle yet unmistakable ways. Auditory phenomena also contributes to the church's haunted ambience. Visitors have reported faint whispers echoing through the hallways, the soft shuffle of footsteps on wooden floors, and the subtle rustling of robes or garments in areas where no one is present. Paranormal researchers have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, including fragments of prayer, murmured names, and whispered phrases that seem to emanate from nowhere. These sounds often occur alongside visual or tactile experiences, creating the impression that Sacred Heart Church is a space where the spiritual and material realms are intertwined. The church's history provides context for the intensity of its paranormal activity. Over the decades, Sacred Heart has witnessed countless ceremonies, moments of personal reflection, and events both joyful and tragic. Many parishioners and clergy passed away under sudden or sorrowful circumstances, leaving emotional and spiritual imprints that appear to persist within the building. These imprints manifest as shadowy figures, unexplained cold spots, flickering lights, and the tolling of bells. In essence, the church functions as a living archive, preserving not only the memories of its community, but also the energy and devotion of generations of worshipers. Staff members and longtime visitors often share first-hand accounts of the church's unexplained phenomena. They describe shadowy figures kneeling near the altar, candles igniting and extinguishing themselves, sudden cold drafts, and the tolling of bells with no apparent source. Many also recount the feeling of an unseen presence during quiet moments of prayer, as if someone or something is silently participating in the rituals of the living. These repeated experiences suggest that Sacred Heart is more than a place of worship. It is a repository of spiritual energy, a space where the devotion of past parishioners continues to manifest in ways that can be seen, heard, and felt. Walking through Sacred Heart Church, one becomes aware of the delicate balance between reverence and mystery. The flickering candlelight, the tolling of unseen bells, the chill of cold drafts, and the presence of shadowy figures combine to create an atmosphere where faith and the supernatural coexist. For those who enter, the church offers more than religious services. It is a place where the devotion and energy of the past linger, where spiritual echoes continue to participate in daily worship, and where the living are invited to sense the unseen, yet unmistakable presence of those who came before. And there you have it, 25 haunted churches in Florida, where bells ring by themselves, shadows linger, and the spirits of the past continue their eternal devotions. These sacred places remind us that even in holy spaces, the past can refuse to rest, and whispers of history echo through the walls. If this journey into Florida's haunted churches gave you chills, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another ghostly tale. Until next time, tread softly, listen closely, and maybe, just maybe, keep an ear out for a bell that shouldn't be ringing.